Chapter 44-54. But, just now, for some reason, his body had inexplicably made an evasive movement. Even he himself did not know why. Looks like this tactic worked. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and nodded in satisfaction. Brother Ling, what tactic is this? How dare they disobey Wu Songlong's orders? Isn't this too strange? Qi Wenhan asked in disbelief. Just now, when arranging the tactic, in order to prevent it from being leaked, Lin Yi only gave instructions to the 5 participating escorts. Everyone else, including Qi Wenhan, was kept in the dark. Not only Qi Wenhan, but everyone present who knew a thing or two actually had this doubt. The Noon Horse Escort Agency was famous for its strict obedience. Under the circumstances where the strength of the escorts was not outstanding, it was also because of this that they were able to gain a foothold in the Southlands. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was their lifeline. But now, they don't really dare to openly disobey orders. It's just like how Wu Songlong insisted on brainwashing them. From just now, we have also been brainwashing them. It's that simple. Lin Yi smiled. Brainwashing? Qi Wenhan's expression instantly became even more strange. How is that possible? Brother Ling, you didn't say anything to brainwash them? Brainwashing doesn't necessarily require words. Actions are enough. From the beginning until now, all the actions of the 5 escorts have been instilling a hint into the other party, making them subconsciously firm in their thoughts. Lin Yi said. What thoughts? Qi Wenhan scratched his head. Brother Qi. If it were you, and you encountered a group of opponents who covered their heads and fled as soon as they appeared, asking you to exchange lives with them one-on-one. Do you know how to do it? Lin Yi asked instead of answering. Of course not. Knowing that the other party is not as good as you, who would be stupid enough to exchange lives with them one-on-one? Qi Wenhan replied instinctively. Then he reacted and slapped his thigh. Wonderful. How wonderful. Brother Ling, you are indeed brilliant. Not really brilliant. I saw that the other party's morale was high from the start, and it was not a good idea to fight them head-on. So, I simply decided to show weakness. As for this, it's actually an unexpected gain. Lin Yi said with a smile. In one spurt of energy. This was the experience left behind by the ancient people. It was used to deal with the Wuma Escort Agency, this kind of armed escort team that was on steroids. It just so happened to have a miraculous restraining effect, and the psychological suggestion left behind in the process made the horse escort master waver. Even Lin Yi himself did not expect that it would have such a good anti-brainwashing effect. Brother Ling, you don't have to be so humble. You must have calculated this point, which is why you made our brothers flee so pathetically. This afternoon, Songlong is going to have a headache. Strict compliance is the foundation of their escort agency's survival. Now that his subordinates are disobedient, let's see what else he can do to be arrogant. Qi Wenhan immediately felt proud and elated. They might not necessarily be disobedient. It's just that he doesn't seem to be very obedient. Lin Yi corrected. It was impossible for the Wu Steed escort to completely disobey Wu Songlong's orders with this kind of strategy. Same. Qi Wenhan chuckled, then said impatiently, then what do we do next? Do we have to go all out in one go? No, it's not the right time yet. Lin Yi shook his head lightly. Now, it seemed that his side had a slight psychological advantage, but it was far from enough. After all, the Wu Horse Escort Agency was not so easy to deal with. If they were to apply pressure now, it was very likely that they would retaliate and cause the opposite effect. All right. Although Qi Wenhan's heart was itching, since he had given Lin Yi full authority, he naturally would not say anything. Whatever Lin Yi said, he would do. Bastards. A bunch of bastards. Did my words go in one ear and out the other? Do you want to go back and receive punishment? Hurry up and kill one of them. Wu Songlong was still in a rage. When the 5 Wu Horse Escort Agency heard the words punishment, they instantly shivered and did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. They hurriedly shook off the distracting thoughts in their minds and began to exert their strength again. They surrounded one of the Heaven's Equal escorts in a corner. It was still that Golden Dan late-stage escort. At the same time, the 4 Heaven's Equal escorts who had been emptied all turned their attention to the strongest Golden Dan late-stage escort. The situation was exactly the same as before. Kill him. Kill him. Wu Long was afraid that there would be another mishap, so he yelled and urged. While he was urging them, the other 4 Heaven's Equal escort masters had already prepared their powerful martial techniques. The arrow was already knocked on the bowstring, and at this critical moment, the group of Wu Horse escort masters, especially the Golden Core Paragon escort master, hesitated for a moment. However, under the threat of Wu Long, they had no choice but to act. You can come down now, Lin Yi suddenly ordered. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, when the Wu Horse Escort Agency launched their attacks, the trapped Heaven's Equal escorts actually jumped down from the arena at the last moment, causing all their attacks to miss. At the same time, it was the Golden Dan late-stage escort from the Wu Horse Escort Agency who received the full force of the other 4 Heaven's Equal escorts' attacks. While he was hesitating, all of his vital points were hit and he died on the spot. In the blink of an eye, the entire crowd fell silent. Wu Long's face became extremely ugly, as black as the bottom of a pot. Because the Heaven's Equal escorts jumped down from the arena, they lost a late-stage Golden Dan late-stage escort. On the other hand, the Wu Horse Escort Agency lost a Golden Dan late-stage escort. It was a classic strategy, but everyone could see that the Wu Horse Escort Agency had suffered a great loss this time. After a long period of attrition, the morale of the Middle Horse Escort on the field had already been worn down. Otherwise, if their morale was still high, they would not have wavered just now, nor would they have hesitated and delayed things. Now, they had suffered such a great loss, especially when they were toyed with by their opponents. Their morale had fallen to rock bottom, and they were at a loss for what to do. Feign weakness to the enemy, then retreat when the enemy advances. Wear down the morale and defeat the enemy with one strike. Brother Ling, you are a master of the art of war. Qi Wenhan's eyes lit up. He was a knowledgeable person, which was why he could see the situation so clearly. If it had been anyone else, they would have thought it was amazing. They would have thought that the Heaven's Equal escorts were obviously in a sorry state, so how did they suddenly gain the upper hand? Could it be that young hero Ling's strategy from the very beginning was to use this strategy? Steward Song, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. That's right. Against a tough opponent like the Wu Horse Escort Agency, using brute force would be too damaging. Using this kind of strategy, which is extremely advantageous, can break their morale, Lin Yi nodded and said. Chapter 44-55. If not for the previous incident, they would have done so already. However, now that it had happened, the 4 horse escort masters left on the field suffered an even greater blow. However, after saying that, his thoughts drifted to the faraway North Africa. At that time, fighting in the jungle required the most tactics, and the tactics that Lin Yi used were just some of the tactics that he had used too many times. It was just that no one used them on Heaven Tier Island. Top novel. When he thought of North Africa, he could not help but think of Yuning. Was she doing well in the secular world? Was everyone else doing well? Has he received my letter? Shaking his head, he threw away these sorrowful thoughts, because the competition was still ongoing. To be able to receive the help of young hero Ling is the greatest fortune that the Equal of Heaven's Escort Agency has accumulated over several lifetimes. It is also the fortune of the young master's family. Steward Song sighed as he glanced at Qi Wenhan meaningfully. Qi Wenhan embarrassedly scratched his head. In comparison, the performance of his young master was far too immature. It couldn't be said that he was weak, but it could be said that Ling Yi was a freak. He was strong in all aspects, and ordinary people couldn't compare to him. What are you panicking for? You still have 4 people, and the opponent only has 4 people. What is there to panic about? Let's take them down in one go. Wu Songlong was unwilling to accept his fate, and continued to shout from below the stage. He was still trying to raise the morale of his team, and was still thinking of turning the tables. However, in the eyes of the audience, this scene only caused them to mock him. Anyone with eyes could see that the horse escort company had already lost. At this time, it was useless to be so stubborn. 4 against 4 is not bad, but the other side has 1 Jindan peak, 2 peak stage Jindan realm martial artists and 1 peak stage Jindan realm martial artist, while your noon horse escort agency has 1 peak stage Jindan realm martial artist and 3 peak stage Jindan realm martial artists. If their morale was as high as before, then they might be able to create a miracle. However, the problem was that their morale had fallen to the freezing point. What could they use to fight against the opponent? The development of this competition was not surprising. Just as everyone had expected, the Noon Horse Escort Agency had lost all of its sharpness. It was completely suppressed by the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Even after the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the 4 escorts of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency were still unscathed. On the other hand, the menacing Noon Horse Escort Agency had lost another 2 escorts. In the end, they had to pay a heavy price of 3 lives. This was the end of the challenge. Without losing a single soldier, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency managed to have the last laugh despite the farce that started the operation. This scene caused everyone's eyes to pop out of their sockets, and they could not help but comment on it. Even a traditional wealthy organization like the 4 Seas Escort Agency might not be able to completely destroy the Noon Horse Escort Agency, which was known for its toughness and blood. At the very least, it was impossible for them to do so without losing a single soldier. However, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had done it. This was a duel. Rather than saying it was a difference in strength, it was better to say it was a complete and utter suppression of intelligence. From the beginning to the end, Wu Songlong had been toyed with by Lin Yi. He did not have the slightest ability to resist. However, because of this, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was even more favored by the Chambers of Commerce. Not only did the people in charge of the Chambers of Commerce not look down on the Heavens Equal Escort for running away, they all nodded their heads in approval. After all, the responsibility of an escort was to be a bodyguard. It was not to fight with brute force. No matter what methods were used, as long as one managed to protect the goods, they would be considered a good escort. On the other hand, if one fought with brute force and lost the goods, what was the point of that? To put it nicely, it was bravery, but in reality, it was like a tiger. It was not a life or death grudge. An escort's job was to be a bodyguard. Everything else was secondary. On the scoreboard, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had risen by 100 points, reaching an astonishing 770 points. Not only had the gap not shrunk, but it had also widened. On the other hand, the Noon Horse Escort Agency, which had initiated the challenge, was left with a pitiful 60 points after losing 100 points. Not only was it at the bottom of all the escort agencies, but it was also facing the awkward situation of being eliminated if it lost another match. Wu Songlong's mood was so gloomy that he could die. He had been feared by all the escort agencies, but now, he was about to follow in the footsteps of the 10,000 Miles Escort Agency. However, he had brought this upon himself. Who asked him to challenge the Heavens Equal Escort Agency? Head Escort Agency, are we still going to challenge the Heavens Equal Escort Agency? The assistant who had been ordered to make preparations asked cautiously. Slap. Wu Songlong slapped the assistant so hard that he fell to the ground. He shouted hysterically, "Challenge my ass. Don't tell me that we haven't lost badly enough. Do you really want to be eliminated?" Although he had flown into a rage out of humiliation, Wu Songlong did not lose his rationality. Right now, the most important thing for him was to ensure that he would not be eliminated, not to chase after the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Otherwise, if they lost another match and were really eliminated, his Noon Horse Escort Agency would become as weak as the 10,000 Miles Escort Agency. They would no longer be able to receive any decent large orders. From then on, they would have to rely on the sea breeze to pass their days. The previous example was right in front of them. For a moment, the escort agencies that had been itching to give it a try and had the same idea as the Noon Horse Escort Agency. For example, the Yongxing Escort Agency, which was about as strong as the Noon Horse Escort Agency, had originally wanted to use the Heavens Equal Escort Agency as a stepping stone to reach the top in one step. However, they were now hesitating again. It was true that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had not displayed its truly overwhelming strength in this match. It was far from enough to make people feel fear and despair. However, if it was any other escort agency that had taken the challenge, they could not guarantee that they would perform better than the Noon Horse Escort Agency. What if they ended up in the same situation? Lin Yi smiled faintly when he saw that the people in charge of the escort agencies had fallen into a state of hesitation and struggle. This effect was actually just right. He could easily obtain points without scaring the other agencies and completely cut off their thoughts of reaching the top in one step. Otherwise, if they were to be so frightened that no agency dared to take the initiative to challenge them, it would be a different kind of loss. After all, in the 5th round of the Escort Agency Championship, each agency was only given the right to challenge and the right to be challenged twice. As for whether they wanted to challenge or use up all these opportunities, it was up to each agency to decide. There were no mandatory rules in the championship. For example, the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency had the right to initiate a challenge twice. Of course, it was up to them to decide. However, whether or not they could use the remaining right to be challenged depended on whether or not the other escort agencies would continue to challenge them. If they were all scared off, then the right to be challenged this time would just be for show. Naturally, it would be useless. This problem was not so obvious for the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. After all, it was just a new force to be reckoned with. Its strength had yet to be truly ingrained in people's hearts. Chapter 44-56. However, for traditional aristocrats like the Four Seas Escort Agency and the Divine Wind Escort Agency, their accumulated prestige was an obvious disadvantage at this time. They were more likely to fight among themselves. As for the other escort agencies, they did not dare to challenge them at all. Otherwise, they would be asking for trouble and giving away points for no reason. The entire conference fell into a rare silence. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, an escort agency stepped forward to challenge again. However, the challenger was not the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, but the weakest agencies that were ranked at the bottom in terms of strength and ranking. The ready-made points that were guaranteed to win were what most escort agencies loved the most. The 5 consecutive matches were all competitions that were aimed at grabbing points while they were down. There was no suspense to speak of. Compared to the match between the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Noon Horse Escort Agency, it was really boring. The atmosphere in the entire Demon Cold Square was quite dull. Everyone was even beginning to feel sleepy. At this time, another good show finally came on stage. The Black Eagle Agency, which was ranked 6th on the scoreboard, challenged the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Upon hearing these two names, everyone's spirits rose. These two organizations were no ordinary organizations. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency, which was currently in the limelight, did not need to be mentioned. However, the Black Eagle Escort Agency was no ordinary organization either. The Black Eagle Agency? Lin Yi did not know much about this escort agency. He was surprised by this challenge. He thought that the Four Seas Escort Agency would not be able to hold back. After all, if it wanted to quickly gain points, directly challenging the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was the most cost-effective choice. As long as it won, it would be able to gain 200 points in one go. Otherwise, even if it won for matches in a row, it might not be able to gain so many points unless the Heavens Equal Escort Agency suffered consecutive defeats. Unfortunately, the probability of this happening was not high. This is troublesome. Qi Wenhan, who was standing at the side, frowned. Seeing that Lin Yi was still confused, he smiled bitterly and explained, "The strength of this escort agency is far beyond the Noon Horse Escort Agency. Its strength is definitely not to be underestimated. Brother Ling, do you know about the Yuantong Escort Agency? I've heard a little about it. It's said that the original 5 major escort agencies split up during the last South Continent Escort Agency Festival. That's why their position fell to our agency. Lin Yi nodded. He had heard about this from other escorts. This Black Hawk Escort Agency is actually the reorganized Far Pass Escort Agency. I heard that they've been recruiting for the past few years, and their strength is even stronger than the original Far Pass Escort Agency. And this time, they even publicly shouted out a slogan, saying that they want to take back their position as one of the 5 major escort agencies from our hands. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but feel a little nervous. If it was the afternoon darts. Even if they had to pay a heavy price, they would still be able to defeat their opponents. However, this Black Eagle Escort Agency that came with such a menacing aura, if they were to really fight, their strength would probably be above their own. This was definitely a strong enemy. Hee, if that's the case, you've come with ill intentions. It was only then that Lin Yi understood. It made sense for the Black Eagle Escort Agency to challenge his Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. They wanted to take back their position as one of the top 5 escort agencies. Naturally, he would target the 5 major escort agencies. Compared to the other 4 traditional wealthy families, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was still in the limelight, but it was much weaker. Moreover, it was once the Yuantong Escort Agency. It had been snatched away by the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. Therefore, this was a typical revenge. Brother Ling, what should we do now? Qi Wenhan saw that Lin Yi didn't seem to care. He could not help but ask nervously. What else can we do? I'll fight with all my strength. I'll have to fight this kind of tough battle sooner or later. It's not a bad thing. If we do well in this battle, our equals Heaven's Escort Agency spirit, Qi, and spirit will rise by leaps and bounds. That is the aura that a wealthy and powerful family should have. Lin Yi glanced at him before ordering the escorts to line up and prepare for the selection of soldiers. Brother Ling is right, I lost my composure. Only then did Qi Wenhan react. As the young master, being afraid before the battle had even begun would greatly affect the morale of his men. While he was secretly embarrassed, he hurriedly patted his chest and said, Brother Ling, this is going to be a tough battle. I'm afraid it will be difficult to use tricks like before. Why don't I personally take the lead? An arena battle of life and death was ultimately a battle of brute strength. Not every battle could be like the one against the Noon Horse Escort Agency, where one could rely on intelligence to crush the opponent. Brother Qi, are you sure? This time, Lin Yi did not directly stop him. In his opinion, the upcoming battle against the Black Eagle Escort Agency might very well be a battle that would transform the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. As the young master, if Qi Wenhan were to personally take the field, not only would he be powerful, but he would also be able to greatly boost the morale of his men, greatly increasing their chances of winning. Of course. Qi Wenhan nodded solemnly and grinned, Brother Ling, I'll leave the command to you. As for the vanguard, just leave it to me. Considering the upcoming challenge of the head of the escort agency, they had to conserve their strength. Therefore, Qi Wenhan would definitely not let Lin Yi join them. Therefore, this time, he would be leading the team himself. This was already the strongest formation that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency could muster. That's good. This battle concerns the future of the entire escort agency. Since Brother Qi is personally taking the field, this battle must be won. Also, Brother Qi, you must take care of your own safety. If anything happens to you, even if we win this battle in the end, it will not be worth it, Lin Yi reminded him. Brother Ling, do not worry. I know what I'm doing, Qi Wenhan nodded solemnly. Good. Lin Yi immediately began to select his team members. This battle was of utmost importance. There was no room for mistakes. Therefore, he did not have any thoughts of conserving his strength. He immediately brought out the strongest formation he had. Including Qi Wenhan, who was at the golden essence level, there were a total of 3 Golden Essence level experts at the Golden Essence level and 2 experts at the peak of the late Golden Essence level. Of course, if they wanted to ensure that their strength was the strongest on paper, they could actually add another Golden Essence level expert. However, this person had dared to fight the Noon Horse Escort Agency. Although he was not injured, he had expended a lot of true chi. He would not be able to recover in a short period of time. Therefore, there was no point in forcing him to fight now. With such a strong formation, even if they were to face a prestigious escort agency like the Four Seas Escort Agency, they would still be able to put up a fight. If they were to face the Noon Horse Escort Agency, this formation would be able to crush them directly. There was no need for them to scheme. Seeing the list of participating escorts that Steward Song had handed over, Qi Mingyuan, who was sitting among the judges, was instantly stunned. Nonsense. Qi Mingyuan glared and immediately slammed the table, wanting to step off the stage to stop this. Although in order to ensure the fairness of the competition, as a judge, he was not allowed to step off the stage without permission, he could not care less now. After all, this was his only son, who he had high hopes for. Chapter 44-57. If he lost the competition, he could still make a comeback. But if something happened to Qi Wenhan, who would he cry to? He was the only successor of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. If even the successor died, what future would the agency have? Head Escort Agency, we can't always protect our young eagle under our wings. There will come a day when it will experience a storm. I think we should let Wenhan have a try. This is a rare opportunity. Housekeeper Song reached out to stop him. Old Song, why are you? Qi Mingyuan frowned and sighed. I understand this, but this kind of thing has to be done step by step. We can't put ourselves in such a dangerous situation all of a sudden, right? The Black Eagle Agency is not easy to deal with. Chief Escort, in my opinion, while this battle is dangerous, nothing will happen to Wenhan. After all, young hero Ling is here, and you've also seen his ability to command on the spot. There won't be any problems. Butler Song, on the other hand, looked very confident. This is true. Qi Mingyuan hesitated. Lin Yi's presence gave him a reassurance. Even if he did not participate in the battle himself, just commanding on the spot should be enough to ensure Qi Wenhan's safety. In the end, he could only nod and say, the world still belongs to the young. Old Song, we are all old, that's right. Our Heavens Equal Escort Agency is about to enter a new chapter. We have a bright future. Housekeeper Song nodded. Well said. A bright future. Qi Mingyuan's eyes flashed. He finally made up his mind and announced the name list of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's participating escorts. Seeing that the first name on the list was the young master of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, Qi Wenhan, the crowd was in an uproar. After all the previous miraculous performances, especially when they defeated the aggressive Noon Horse Escort Agency without losing a single soldier, no one dared to look down on the Heavens Equal Escort Agency anymore. After all, they were not idiots. Even if the Heavens Equal Escort Agency did not display overwhelming strength, they had a solid record in front of them. They had no choice but to accept it. Now that they saw Qi Wenhan personally leading the team, the crowd did not look down on them as much as Lin Yi had expected. Instead, they were all in high spirits. Facing a strong opponent like the Black Eagle Agency, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was finally going all out. Qi Wenhan. At this moment, in the Black Hawk Escort Agency's camp, there was a middle-aged man in a black coat with an eye-catching knife scar on his face. Seeing this, he could not help but be slightly taken aback. This person was the chief escort of the Black Hawk Escort Agency, Zhao Shanying. 5 years ago, the Yuantong Escort Agency fell apart overnight. In just a year, Zhao Shanying, who was originally just an ordinary escort leader of the Yuantong Escort Agency, took advantage of the chaos and rose to power. Not only did he successfully swallow up the various forces left behind by the Yuantong Escort Agency, but he also reformed the Black Eagle Escort Agency. After 3 years of development and expansion, his current strength was far greater than before. He was a formidable and ambitious character. Even the young master has been forced to come out. This shows that the equal of Heaven Escort Agency's strength is only a so-so. Although they were lucky enough to become one of the top 5 escort agencies last time, it's a pity that a nouveau riche will always be a nouveau riche. They'll never be able to make a name for themselves, one of the escorts beside him said with a pout. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency has been one of the top 5 escort agencies for 5 years. In your eyes, it's just a nouveau riche. Then what is our Black Eagle Escort Agency? Zhao Shanning glanced at him. The escort leader was at a loss for words. Although his agency had been reformed from the Yuantong Escort Agency, strictly speaking, it was still an escort agency that had only been established for a few years. If he insisted on feeling superior to the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, he would be deceiving himself and others. The biggest difference between a rich and a nouveau riche is not in strength, but in the foundation and temperament. This Heavens Equal Escort Agency has only been established for a short 5 years, but it already has the temperament of a rich and powerful family. They're able to take things in at will, strategize against their enemies, and fight to the death. They're really not simple. Zhao Shanning exclaimed. For the past few years, he had been wholeheartedly trying to build the temperament of a rich and powerful family. Perhaps in the eyes of others, the Black Eagle Escort Agency was strong enough, but in his eyes, it was far from enough. Especially now that he had seen the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, the gap between them was even more obvious. Head Escort, since the Heavens Equal Escort Agency is stronger than expected, should we proceed with the battle as planned? The escort leader who was in charge of directing the battle asked. No, this time, I will personally direct the battle. If our Black Eagle Escort Agency wants to rise, we must defeat the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. We must win this battle, not lose. Zhao Shanning's aura grew cold. The current Heavens Equal Escort Agency had indeed earned his respect. However, respect was respect, and he could not go easy on them. In fact, the more this was so, the more he wanted to defeat them. An opponent like this deserved to be personally commanded by Zhao Shanning. While Zhao Shanning was observing the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, Lin Yi, Qi Wenhan, and the others were also carefully observing the Black Eagle Escort Agency. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. That person is the head escort of the Black Eagle Escort Agency? Lin Yi looked Zhao Shanning up and down. Whether it was against the Noon Horse Escort Agency or the Yongxing Escort Agency in the first round of the battle, he had only observed the participating escorts. He had never paid attention to the person commanding the battle. This time, however, was an exception. That's right. This person's name is Zhao Shanning. My father has a very high opinion of him, even higher than boundless seas. He is an ambitious and ruthless character, Qi Wenhan said, nodding cautiously. He does seem to be something else. Lin Yi nodded. After experiencing so many ups and downs, he had seen all sorts of people. He had quite a bit of experience when it came to reading people's faces. As the saying went, one's face was born from one's heart. This was not just a person's appearance, but also a person's temperament and demeanor. This Zhao Shanning, on the other hand, gave off an extraordinary aura. He was a classic example of an ambitious and ruthless character. As the two of them spoke, the participating escorts of the Dark Eagle Escort Agency, under the urging of the referee, had already left the arena. The 5 of them lined up in a row and stood on the arena, causing the entire audience to exclaim in surprise. The 5 participating escorts were all experts at the Golden Core Perfection stage. How generous! Even Qi Wenhan could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The rules stated that only Golden Core experts could participate in the South Continent's Escort Agency Grand Meet. Sending 5 Golden Core experts at the Golden Core Perfection stage at once was already a dream lineup. In the past, only the overlords of escort agencies like the Four Seas Escort Agency could deploy such a lineup. Who would have thought that the Black Eagle Escort Agency would be so powerful? Chapter 44-58. Interesting. Lin Yi's eyes brightened. Although he was only in charge of giving instructions and not personally going into battle, the thrill of encountering such a strong opponent made him unconsciously excited. "Brother Ling, how do we fight?" Qi Wenhan asked. The other 4 participating escorts also looked at Lin Yi expectantly. They were more or less nervous. After all, they were facing 5 golden core consummation experts. If they fought them head-on, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Therefore, the key to winning this battle was still Lin Yi's on-the-spot instructions. "Everyone, don't be nervous. In this battle, our strength is actually not weaker than our opponents." Lin Yi smiled and comforted them. He then analyzed, "Although our opponents have 5 golden core consummation experts, we have Brother Qi on our side, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Brother Qi's strength is well known throughout the entire Verdant Arc territorial waters. Ordinary golden core consummation experts are probably just as so in Brother Qi's eyes." "Hee, Brother Ling is too kind." Qi Wenhan pinched his nose and did not deny it. Although his strength was not as abnormal as Lin Yi's, who could beat up an early Yuanying expert, he was still an existence that could not be underestimated. He was known as the small invincible golden core in the Verdant Arc territorial waters. Yes, with young master here, we can fight." The other 4 participating escorts immediately relaxed quite a bit. Under normal circumstances, Qi Wenhan would be able to restrain 2 golden core paragon experts. In this way, when they fought later, their side would not necessarily be at a disadvantage. "Hee, so there is no need to be nervous. Although our opponents are strong, as long as we treat them calmly, our chances of winning are still very high." Lin Yi smiled. After letting everyone relax, he said seriously, "If nothing unexpected happens, when the battle starts, I am afraid that the opponents will focus on attacking Brother Qi. Brother Qi, you must be mentally prepared for this." "Yes, I know. To catch the bandits, first catch the ringleader." Qi Wenhan replied in a low voice. He was the strongest person in the Equal of Heaven escort agency. At the same time, he was also the most obvious breakthrough point. If something happened to him, the young master, then everything would be over. Then we have to be careful and protect the young master carefully. This is to prevent our opponents from succeeding in their schemes. The 4 participating escorts looked at each other. Although Qi Wenhan was strong, this was an escort agency competition, not a one-on-one duel. The situation could change in an instant, and if his opponents seized the opportunity to gang up on him, even Qi Wenhan would not be able to withstand it. Unexpectedly, Lin Yi shook his head repeatedly. "If you really think that way, then we have lost. And he will definitely lose." Huh? Everyone, including Qi Wenhan, was stunned. Just a moment ago, he had said that his chances of winning were very high. How did it become certain defeat in the blink of an eye? Brother Qi's presence is a double-edged sword for both sides. The longer he stays on the field, the easier it is for him to get into an accident. For the Black Eagle Escort Agency, the most they can do is to lose this match. They can afford to lose, but we can't. Lin Yi's gaze slowly swept across everyone's faces. So, in order to prevent any accidents, we must finish this battle quickly. End the battle quickly? Everyone's eyelids twitched as they hurriedly asked, "How do you mean end the battle quickly?" Their opponents were not weaklings, but 5 golden core perfected experts. With their strength, it would be a blessing from the heavens if they could win this battle of life and death. How could they end the battle quickly? Unless, of course, it was a risky move. You must remember every word I say. Whether or not we can have the last laugh in this battle, whether or not we can let you, especially Brother Qi, escape unscathed, depends on whether or not you can do it. Lin Yi's expression turned serious for once, because everyone was right. From a certain perspective, this strategy was indeed a risky one. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the battle between the Black Eagle Escort Agency and the Heavens Equal Escort Agency finally began with the announcement of the referee. The moment the incense was lit, the 5 Golden Core perfected experts of the Black Eagle Escort Agency charged towards their opponents like ferocious tigers released from their cages. They did not seem to have any intricate formation, but their pace was surprisingly consistent. Even their breathing was strictly synchronized. The result of this was that the 5 people's powerful auras completely fused into one, forming a momentum that could topple mountains and overturn seas, covering the sky and covering the earth as it pressed down on Qi Wenhan and the others. Not simple indeed. Lin Yi's eyes brightened. Synchronizing one's breath did not seem difficult, but in reality, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It was even more difficult after one's strength had reached the Golden Core perfected level. Whether it was fighting or doing other things, everyone had their own familiar rhythm. The more powerful one was, the more obvious this rhythm would be. Once one broke away from their own rhythm, everything would become difficult. Originally, one's strength might be 10%, but in the end, they might only be able to use 60 to 70%, or even less. In all kinds of competitions in the secular world, there were always people who brought their opponents into their own rhythm and won in the end. Cases of the weak defeating the strong were not uncommon. In fact, this was the principle. Under such circumstances, to make 5 Golden Core perfected experts synchronize one's breath, the difficulty was obvious. Lin Yi did not believe that his opponents would deliberately sacrifice part of their strength to achieve this. Since his opponents dared to do this, there was only one possibility. The rhythm of these 5 Golden Core perfected experts was naturally synchronized. At least, the difference between them was negligible. Fight. In the face of his opponent's mountain-like pressure, Qi Wenhan did not want to be outdone. After a cold shout, the 4 heavens equal escorts beside him quickly formed an arrow formation, the arrowheads pointing straight at their opponents. What a strong spirit! Zhao Shanning could not help but praise. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency was indeed one of the 5 major escort agencies. Although it had only been a short time, the quality of these escorts was not the least bit inferior to the other 5 agencies. In particular, the arrow formation's spirit was threatening. It was obvious that they had trained a lot. However, what made Zhao Shanning slightly surprised was that among the 5 opponents, the strongest was undoubtedly Qi Wenhan. Logically speaking, he, the strongest person, should be the spearhead of the formation. Only by doing so would he be able to maximize the power of the arrow formation. However, the current situation was that not only was Qi Wenhan not the spearhead, he faintly felt that he was disconnected from the rest of the group. What was going on? Could it be that this young master did not usually train with the escorts, so he was not used to the arrow formation? This is a good opportunity. Cut them in half and separate them. The opportunity was fleeting. Zhao Shanning did not have much time to hesitate and immediately gave the order. Chapter 44-59. On the stage, the 5 Black Eagle escort masters roared angrily and exerted their strength. Instead of pressing forward, they changed their formation and moved in a straight line, instantly separating Qi Wenhan and the other 4. Bang! This time, Qi Wenhan was immediately isolated, completely drifting away from his own vanguard formation. The audience gasped in shock. Not to mention those who knew the ropes, even the layman who just wanted to watch the show knew that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was in a bad situation. Qi Wenhan, the young master, was the soul of the agency. He had to protect him closely, but in the blink of an eye, he had been isolated. They were outnumbered, and the initiative had completely fallen into the hands of their opponents. This way, they could do whatever they wanted, and the other 4 from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency could not even save them. How could this be? Qi Mingyuan's heart tightened when he saw this scene. He took 2 steps back from the judge's seat. If Qi Wenhan really died on the stage, how could he live? Head escort, please wait. In my opinion, this matter is not so simple. Wenhan should not be so brainless. Furthermore, young hero Ling is giving commands on the spot. Housekeeper Song, who had been guarding the area, quickly stopped him. Old Song, what you mean is... Qi Mingyuan immediately stopped in his tracks. He was confused because of his concern, but now that Housekeeper Song had reminded him, he immediately understood. With Ling Yi and Qi Wenhan's abilities, even if they were not a match for the Black Eagle escort agency, they should not be in such a passive position. Let's continue watching. I believe they will not disappoint you. Housekeeper Song nodded and did not say anything else. I hope so. Qi Mingyuan felt a little more at ease, but he was still a little worried. What were young hero Ling and his son up to? Please don't let anything go wrong. At this moment, on the stage, the situation was clear. Qi Wenhan was separated by his opponents. If he wanted to form a coordination with the other four, he would have to go through the encirclement of the 5 Golden Elixir Realm experts. This was practically 1 against 5. Even if Qi Wenhan was much stronger than the average Golden Elixir Realm expert, it was impossible for him to do such an exaggerated thing. At most, he could fight 1 against 2, and it was uncertain whether he could win in the end. If it was 1 against 5, it was practically asking for death. Capture the ringleader. Zhao Shanning, who was below the stage, hurriedly gave the order. He had been thinking about how to deal with Qi Wenhan since the beginning. Now that such a great opportunity had been placed in front of him, there was no reason for him to hesitate. After all, he had no friendship with the equal of Heaven Escort Agency to begin with. Furthermore, this was not the time to be soft-hearted. While you're down, I'll take your life. The 5 experts of the Peak of Gold Core realm of the Black Eagle Escort Agency immediately formed a formation and prepared to take advantage of the situation to surround and kill Qi Wenhan. With their strength and this kind of ready-made opportunity, they did not need to waste their time at all. They only needed a moment to solve the problem. However, before they could do anything, on the other side, Qi Wenhan was already prepared. In an instant, he exploded with an extremely astonishing speed, retreating to the empty space behind him. At the same time, the other 4 Heaven's Equal escorts, who had formed an arrow formation, were also stunned. Instead, he took the initiative and aggressively charged towards one of the Black Eagle bodyguards. Even Zhao Shanning jumped in fright. His heart skipped a beat. The 2 sides had reacted in unison. Moreover, it was so fast. How was it possible that he was caught off guard? It was obvious that he had been accumulating power for a long time. That meant they were prepared for this. Could it be that they did this on purpose from the beginning? Zhao Shanning subconsciously glanced at Lin Yi in the distance. He knew that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's previous victories were all thanks to this person. In the previous round, it was also this person who was able to toy with the Noon Horse Escort Agency in the palm of his hand. Who knew what this person was planning this time? The reason why Zhao Shanning was able to achieve what he had today was not because he was arrogant and conceited. He was able to clearly weigh the weight of every person he had met. In his eyes, Lin Yi was undoubtedly an unfathomable person. Zhao Shanning didn't dare let his guard down in the slightest, afraid of falling into Lin Yi's trap. Fortunately, the 5 escorts he'd sent out were all cautious men. Even when they'd wanted to surround and kill Qi Wenhan, they hadn't messed up their formation. Otherwise, if they'd been ambushed by 4 Heaven's Equal escorts, one of them would have died on the spot. Come on, the gamble has already begun. Let's see if you're prepared to bet on big or small. Lin Yi looked at Zhao Shanning from afar and smiled faintly. On one side was Qi Wenhan, who was alone, and on the other side were the 4 Heaven's Equal escorts in the arrow formation. Zhao Shanning had to make a choice between the 2. This was the gamble that Lin Yi had set out. It was supposed to be a very simple matter, but because Qi Wenhan had escaped the encirclement, they had lost the opportunity to break through the situation. The situation had suddenly become complicated, and Zhao Shanning could not help but frown. First of all, the 4 Heaven's Equal escorts who had formed the arrow formation could not be left unguarded. The arrow formation was originally a formation with outstanding lethality. With the strength of these 4 people, if they were left alone, it would not be difficult for them to kill an expert in the Golden Elixir Great Perfection in an instant. Secondly, on the other side, Qi Wenhan could not be left unguarded. Zhao Shanyin could see that this person's strength was much stronger than an ordinary expert of golden core consummation. If he allowed him to do as he pleased, the consequences would be unimaginable. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't let go of either side. Zhao Shanyin could only choose to split his forces into two. One would deal with the arrow formation, and the other would deal with Qi Wenhan. As for how many people he would split up, he had to carefully consider it. On Qi Wenhan's side, it was obviously impossible to send only one person. If it was a one-on-one fight, he might be killed in minutes. Therefore, he needed at least two people. On the other side, facing the arrow formation of the four heavens equal escorts, Zhao Shanyin did not dare to underestimate them. If there were less than 3 people, he might suffer a great loss. Vulture, Falcon, deal with Qi Wenhan. The other 3 hold off the other 4. Zhao Shanyin ordered in a low voice. He was still eyeing the isolated Qi Wenhan like a tiger watching its prey. He was itching to make a move and swallow him up. However, at the same time, he was afraid of falling into Lin Yi's trap, so he did not dare to send more people to deal with Qi Wenhan. If the other party's killing move was hidden in the arrow formation of the 4, sending only 2 people to guard would not be sending a sheep to the tiger's mouth. 2 people to deal with Qi Wenhan, and 3 people to deal with the arrow formation. This was the safest method in Zhao Shanying's eyes. Chapter 4460. On the other side, Lin Yi smiled as he watched the scene unfold. Bet on big, bet on small, and leave after you've made up your mind. Everyone in the audience was filled with interest as they raised their heads to look at the situation in the arena. Currently, it was still unclear who had the upper hand and who had the lower hand, but the scene was clear. The huge arena had unknowingly been divided into 2 halves. On one side, it was Qi Wenhan against 2, and on the other side, it was the vanguard formation against 4 against 3. After so many South Continent Escort Agency grand meetings, they had seen all kinds of escort agency duels, and they had seen all kinds of tragic battles, but this was the first time they had seen such a strange situation. Zhao Shanyin suddenly clenched his fists. Although it was still a stalemate, and no matter how he looked at it, there was a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart, and chills ran down his spine. This feeling was like falling into a swamp. At first, it was not dangerous, but as it sank deeper and deeper, it would be too late to regret it when it was discovered. Zhao Shanying's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he was about to change his strategy when the situation suddenly changed. Qi Wenhan was still fighting 1 against 2, but on the other side, both sides had one person seriously injured and rolled off the arena. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency sacrificed a peak Golden Elixir Realm late stage, but succeeded in exchanging the opponent's Golden Elixir Realm grade attainment. This situation made everyone's eyelids twitch. Exchange, another exchange. Previously, they had gained the upper hand in the exchange of chess pieces, which had destroyed the last bit of the Horse Escort Agency's spirit and allowed them to crush their opponent and achieve a complete victory. Now, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was playing the same trick again, but this time, their opponent was the Black Eagle Agency. That's great. Young Hero Ling is really amazing. In order to create this opportunity to exchange, you have really put in a lot of effort. Qi Mingyuan saw the situation and immediately felt relieved, and praised Ling Xian. Previously, he was still confused, but now that things had developed to this point, if he still could not see Lin Yi's plan, then he would not be able to sit in this position today. Although the strategy of exchanging pieces was simple, to achieve this, especially at the same time of exchanging pieces, it required real skills. After all, people were not fools. No one would be stupid enough to exchange an expert in the great perfection of the Gold Core Realm for an expert in the peak of the Gold Core Realm late stage. Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was only able to do this because of Lin Yi's formation and direction. If it wasn't for the arrow formation, successfully creating a situation where they had the advantage of numbers meant that they wouldn't have the opportunity to exchange pieces. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of the situation. Not bad. Not only did young Hero Ling set up a brilliant trap, but Wenhan's performance was also commendable. His contributions cannot go unnoticed. Butler Song nodded repeatedly. Although the breakthrough point of this exchange was the four-man arrow formation, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the most crucial source of all this was Chi Wenhan. If he had not successfully held back the two Golden Core Paragon experts, how could the other four people of the Equal of Heaven escort agency have the advantage in numbers? Especially when Chi Wenhan was facing two Golden Core Paragon experts, he was able to remain calm from beginning to end. With ease, people could not help but sigh. This young master of the Equal of Heaven escort agency was indeed not an ordinary person. He was able to easily take on two people at the same realm. At least, ordinary people would definitely not be able to do this. Let him go 1v2, even though it seems a bit risky. Although it seems risky, it's still within this fellow's ability. As long as the other party doesn't act recklessly, there shouldn't be any danger. Chi Mingyuan nodded. He was no longer worried and nervous. Instead, he became more spirited. If this continued, the possibility of taking down the Black Eagle Agency was at least 60%, maybe even higher. Once they succeeded, the Equal of Heaven escort agency would be the first to take down one of the top 5 escort agencies. This was enough to give the entire escort agency a shot of adrenaline. At the same time, it would let everyone know that the Equal of Heaven escort agency was not an undeserved reputation. It was not a super dark horse that had gotten lucky. It was truly capable of becoming the overlord of the escort agencies. Oh no. In contrast, Zhao Shanying's mood was extremely heavy. In the eyes of the onlookers, the Black Eagle Agency had suffered a loss this time. However, there were still 4 people left in the arena. The Equal of Heaven escort agency had 3 Golden Core Paragon experts and 1 Peak Late Golden Core expert. The Black Eagle Agency, on the other hand, had 4 Golden Core Paragon experts. In terms of strength, they still had the upper hand. Even though this advantage was not great, it was enough to tip the scales of victory in the Black Eagle Agency's favor. At the very least, they would not be at a disadvantage. However, Zhao Shanying was not as shallow as the onlookers. He was not looking at the gains and losses of one city or one place. Instead, he was looking at the overall direction of the situation. It was obvious that after this exchange, the situation was already on the Equal of Heaven escort agency's side. On Chi Wenhan's side, there were 2 Golden Core Paragon experts working together to besiege him. Even if they could not take him down in a short time, there was no need to worry too much. On the other hand, the Equal of Heaven escort agency's remaining 3 people could still form an arrow formation. On the other hand, the Black Eagle Agency's side only had 2 people left. The situation was not looking good. Previously, it was 3 against 4. Basically, they were not at a disadvantage. Now that it was 2 against 3, it was obvious that they could not handle it. What Zhao Shanying was really worried about was that the other party would use the same trick again and exchange a Peak Late Golden Core expert for a Golden Core Paragon expert. If that happened, they would completely lose the advantage. This was not impossible. In fact, it was highly possible. After all, the other party still had the advantage in numbers. Moreover, they held the initiative and were fully capable of launching another exchange. When that happened, all the people left in the arena would be Golden Core Paragon experts. Both sides would be fighting 1 against 2. However, although Chi Wenhan had the strength to fight 1 against 2, the Black Eagle Agency's side could not do the same. They might even be killed by the 2 opponents in an instant. What should I do? Zhao Shanying was extremely anxious. At the same time, he looked at Lin Yi in the distance with extreme fear. Both sides were giving commands on the spot. Zhao Shanying's side was taking 1 step at a time and looking 2 steps ahead. He was smarter than the average person. However, compared to this calm and composed young man, he was no different from a 3-year-old child. The other party was not just taking 1 step at a time and looking 2 steps ahead. Even before he made his move, he had already grasped everything in his hands. No, he had to quickly come up with a countermeasure. Zhao Shanning did not dare to wait passively. Otherwise, if the other party really attacked again, he would not even have the chance to fight back. Chapter 4461. This meant that he was prepared to attack the only remaining peak golden elixir realm expert of the Qitian escort agency. Vulture was an expert in speed. Both of them were peak golden elixir realm experts. Even if he could not defeat Qi Wenhan one-on-one, he should have no problem delaying Qi Wenhan for a short period of time. If Falcon turned around to help, it would become a 3-on-3. With a slight advantage in strength, it would not be difficult to take out the opponent's peak golden elixir realm expert first. Zhao Shanning did not want to take any risks. He only wanted to use his advantage in strength to crush his opponent directly. But now, it was obvious that he no longer had this confidence. Qi Wenhan was slightly taken aback when he sensed the other party's intentions. He immediately wanted to stop this Black Eagle escort who was known as Falcon, but the other party did not want to tangle with him at all. With Vulture's protection, unless Qi Wenhan risked his life to exchange wounds with him, there was nothing he could do to him. Qi Wenhan's eyes flashed with some hesitation and struggle. Based on his tough personality, if it were any other situation, he would definitely not let Falcon go so easily. However, this was an escort agency competition, and he was the most crucial factor in determining the outcome of the competition. Risking his life was fine at any other time, but this was the only time he could not do it. "Brother Qi, don't hold back," Lin Yi suddenly shouted from below the stage. Qi Wenhan stared blankly for a moment, then immediately became spirited. Without caring about anything else, he leaped up and chased after Falcon. He raised his hand and used the most powerful absolute soul palm. This was his trump card. This sudden attack left everyone speechless. The crowd was left speechless. The Black Eagle escort on the stage, especially the Falcon guards, who could feel the murderous intent behind him. This is a good opportunity. Let's join forces and kill him. Zhao Shanning roared calmly, as if he had already expected this. It was his original intention to let Falcon help on the other side, but at the same time, there was another meaning to it, to lure the snake out of its hole. And now it seemed. This move had obviously succeeded. As soon as Zhao Shanning's voice fell, the two Black Eagle escorts closest to Qi Wenhan in the arena. Vulture and Falcon attacked at the same time, each using their strongest martial skills to attack Qi Wenhan. Falcon, who had been locked onto by Qi Wenhan's absolute soul palm, was doing his utmost to carry out Zhao Shanning's orders. The outcome he faced was not only serious injuries, but it was very likely that he would die on the spot. However, he still chose to do so, which showed how much prestige Zhao Shanning had in their hearts. As expected, he was not a simple opponent. Lin Yi gave Zhao Shanning a look of appreciation. Qi Wenhan's situation on the stage was extremely dangerous. After all, he was facing an all-out counterattack from two opponents of the same level. If this continued, there was a 90% chance that he would be beaten to death. However, Lin Yi did not look anxious at all. He was still as calm as ever. Everyone in the audience gasped. Qi Wenhan and the other two had already finished exchanging their killing moves, and did not cancel each other out at all. Instead, all of them landed squarely on the opponent's body. Bang! Falcon was struck by Qi Wenhan's absolute soul palm. He didn't even let out a groan as he was sent flying out of the arena like a kite with its string cut. He didn't make a sound, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. But at the same time, Qi Wenhan didn't feel much better either. It must be known. Not only did he suffer Falcon's killing move, but he also suffered an extremely fierce claw on his back. This was Vulture's sneak attack. At the same time, he suffered the killing moves of two opponents at the peak of the Jindan stage. Even if Qi Wenhan was known as the Little Invincible of the Jindan stage, he couldn't bear it. Although he wasn't directly thrown out of the arena like Falcon, he spat out a large mouthful of blood on the spot. The scene was equally shocking. Wenhan! In the distance, Qi Mingyuan suddenly exclaimed, his heart burning with anxiety. Just now, he thought the situation was stable, but in the blink of an eye, it had become like this. This was his only son. How could he sit still? At this moment, without needing Zhao Shanying's instructions, Vulture, who was close to Qi Wenhan on the arena, did not hesitate to attack again. Take advantage of your illness, take your life. Qi Mingyuan was so scared that he jumped up. Qi Wenhan was already seriously injured. If he was clawed again, wouldn't that take his life? However, his opponent had underestimated Qi Wenhan's strength. After all, the little invincible of the Jindan stage was not an undeserved reputation. Even if he was seriously injured, he would not be a lamb for others to slaughter. Without waiting for Vulture's claw shadow to hit him again, Qi Wenhan didn't even turn his head. He turned his hand and unleashed the absolute soul palm that he had been preparing for a long time. He was already prepared for this. If he hadn't held back this time, Falcon, who had just been hit by him, would not have even had a full corpse left, let alone a chance to save his life. This time, Vulture was completely unprepared. In his eyes, Qi Wenhan was already a dead man. Who would have thought that this guy would still have the strength to counterattack and kill him? With two muffled sounds, Qi Wenhan and Vulture flew out at the same time, both falling off the arena. The entire arena was in an uproar. Everyone was talking about this. This young master of the Equal of Heaven escort agency was really tough. With his own strength, he had managed to take out two opponents at the peak of the Jindan stage. This was really tough. Wenhan. Qi Mingyuan immediately shouted and rushed down from the judge's stand. He looked at Qi Wenhan's face, which was as pale as paper, and he was on the verge of death. Qi Mingyuan's internal organs were on fire, and his eyes were about to bleed. Lin Yi, on the other hand, hadn't been idling around. He'd caught Qi Wenhan the moment he'd been knocked down from the arena, one hand on Qi Wenhan's back, his head lowered, not saying a word. To outsiders, Lin Yi seemed to be blaming himself and regretting Qi Wenhan's miserable fate. However, no one could have imagined that at this moment, Qi Wenhan was continuously flowing through Lin Yi's palm and into Qi Wenhan's body, rapidly healing his injuries. Healing injuries with Qi Wenhan had always been Lin Yi's forte. Now that his strength had advanced to the mid-stage of the Jindan stage, the effects of Qi Wenhan were incomparable. In the past, Qi Wenhan's near-death injuries would have taken at least half a day to heal. Now, however, it didn't even take 10 minutes. Wenhan. How are you? Qi Mingyuan no longer cared about his identity as a judge. He parted the crowd and rushed over. However, when he reached Zhou Donghuang, he was immediately stunned. Son, you, father, I'm fine. Qi Wenhan's face was calm as he stood up. Behind him, Lin Yi withdrew his hand without anyone noticing. Qi Mingyuan was speechless. He couldn't say anything for a long time. Just a moment ago, he was burning with anxiety. In the end, he was almost choked to death by his own son. Chapter 44-62. Just now, he looked like he was on the verge of death. How could he look completely fine now? Even Qi Mingyuan was behaving like this. Needless to say, the rest of the people present had their mouths wide open. They looked at each other and stared at Qi Wenhan speechlessly. Especially Zhao Shanying of the Black Eagle Escort Agency, he looked like he had seen a ghost. Looking at his two Golden Core Realm experts lying on the ground, it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Then looking at Qi Wenhan, whom they had fought so hard to replace, there was no sign of injury at all. If this wasn't a ghost, then what was? Wenhan, are you really okay? Qi Mingyuan finally asked a proper question. He checked Qi Wenhan's injuries up and down with a face full of concern. The results shocked him. There was really no injury at all. Dad, don't worry. I'm really fine. Qi Wenhan stretched his arms and legs. He could move freely without any signs of injury. The audience was completely speechless. They looked at Qi Wenhan as if they were looking at a monster. Apart from shock, there was more shock. The strength of the Golden Core Realm experts of the Black Eagle Escort Agency was obvious to all. They were definitely not weak among those of the same level. However, Qi Wenhan had withstood the powerful killing moves of the two opponents. In particular, Vulture had taken the opportunity to scratch him twice. In the end, he had only rested for a while after being knocked out of the ring. On the other hand, it was unknown whether the two men from the Black Eagle Escort Agency were dead or alive. They were already exhaling more than they were inhaling. With such a stark contrast, anyone could see that even though they were all experts in the Golden Core Realm, they were still at the Golden Core Realm. Although they were all experts of the Golden Core Realm, the difference in strength was definitely not small. Some people even couldn't help but speculate that if this was not an arena battle, if it had been any other occasion, Qi Wenhan could have fought again in his current state. Who could stop him then? It seemed that the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was simply an invincible existence in the Golden Core Realm. Unbeknownst to everyone, Qi Wenhan, who was a legend in the audience, was also confused at this moment. However, he could guess that it was Lin Yi's trick, so he cooperated with him very tacitly. Qi Wenhan is actually so strong? Could it be that he was hiding his true strength in the past? Long Kiba looked at this scene. He couldn't help but frown deeply. Due to the conflict between the Dragon Boat Escort Agency and the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, he had dealt with Qi Wenhan many times. He had always known that Qi Wenhan was not weak. But he never knew that it could be this strong. That's right. This is a little troublesome. What if this fellow replaces the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency when the helmsman of the escort agency challenges him? Counselor, what do you think? Cheng Haonan was also a little worried. His target had always been Lin Yi, but he didn't expect that someone like Qing Yao Jin would suddenly appear and ruin his plan. That would be troublesome. Humph. There's nothing to worry about. However, Wu Baoliang laughed cruelly and snorted coldly. I carefully observed his martial skills just now, and the power is only average. He couldn't even kill an opponent of the same level twice in a row. How strong can he be? You're right, Counselor. Cheng Haonan and Long Kiba nodded repeatedly. Because Lin Yi didn't personally fight, they didn't observe so carefully. Hearing Wu Baoyang's words, they immediately felt relieved. The minimum requirement to be invincible at the same level was to be able to kill an opponent of the same level in one move. Qi Wenhan couldn't even do this, so it was obvious that his strength was only a so-so. Not only that, the two escorts from the Black Eagle Escort Agency obviously reserved some strength for defense and didn't attack with all their strength. That's why Qi Wenhan managed to escape. Otherwise, with his strength, if he was really attacked by two people in the exceptional Gold Core realm, do you think he could really survive? Wu Baoyang sneered. That's right, that's right. Both of us can't see clearly, but Counselor can see clearly. This kid is really nothing to worry about. Both of us are worrying too much. Ha 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 ha. Cheng Haonan and Long Kiba looked at each other and laughed. Just as the three of them were discussing, the situation in the arena had become completely clear. After Qi Wenhan successfully exchanged 1 for 2, it was 3 against 2. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's advantage was obvious. Under these circumstances, even without Lin Yi's guidance, the 3 Skyward escorts were already in an invincible position. They were all experienced members of the escort agency, after all, and even if they weren't as explosive as Qi Wenhan, they'd at least be able to hold their ground. It wasn't a problem for them to hold their ground. In the end, there was only one person left in the arena. He was the only Golden Core Realm expert in the late stage. He didn't disappoint and represented the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency to have the last laugh. Faced with this result, the audience was speechless for a long time. Although no one died in this arena battle, a total of 9 people were eliminated. Among them, except for Qi Wenhan, all of them were seriously injured. The intensity of the battle was evident. In this battle, the Black Eagle Escort Agency sent 5 experts of the Golden Elixir realm to fight. The strength they displayed was not weak, but they still lost in the end. Although they lost, it was still a loss. Perhaps the crowd would still feel sorry for them, but the points would not be discounted. In the 5th round of the Escort Agency Championship, the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency accepted 2 challenges and won both of them. With a dazzling 870 points, they continued to lead the leaderboard, leaving the other 31 escort agencies far behind. Everyone in the Heavens Equal Escort Agency cheered and celebrated. They surrounded Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi, the 2 greatest contributors to their success. They cheered and jumped for joy, unable to contain their excitement. At that moment, the head escort of the Black Eagle Agency, Zhao Shanning, slowly walked to the front of the crowd under the watchful eyes of the audience. The crowd immediately quieted down and looked at Zhao Shanning cautiously. This person was able to single-handedly rebuild the Black Eagle Agency and was undoubtedly a formidable character. He had come here with a vengeance, but in the end, he was trampled to the ground by his own Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Faced with such a cruel blow, who knew what he would do next? "You're Lin Yi?" Zhao Shanning walked up to Lin Yi and looked him up and down. "That's right. What advice do you have for me?" Lin Yi's expression was calm as he looked him up and down. "You flatter me. I've finally realized something today. The reason why the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was able to rise so quickly was not because of luck, but because of real strength." Zhao Shanning bowed his head to Lin Yi and said in front of everyone, "I'm convinced of your strength in today's battle. You are indeed stronger than my Black Eagle Agency." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd broke into a flurry of discussion. Chapter 4463. Although the Black Eagle Escort Agency was not one of the top 5 escort agencies, it was recognized as one of the top 5 escort agencies. Now that it had lowered its head to the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, it was clear that the latter's strength was extraordinary. "Chief Escort Zhao, you're exaggerating. Your Black Eagle Escort Agency is not bad either." Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan looked at each other. In fact, if it were not for Lin Yi's strategy, it would be hard to say who would win the battle. The possibility of the Black Eagle Escort Agency having the last laugh was definitely not lower than that of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. "Next time, we won't lose." Zhao Shanning smiled confidently. After cupping his hands at Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan, he turned around and returned to the Black Eagle Escort Agency's camp to prepare for the next battle. This man is really ambitious. He can afford to lose, but he can also afford to lose. Lin Yi looked at his back and nodded. There were many people in the world who could afford to win, but few could afford to lose. This Zhao Shanning should not be underestimated. Yes, this man is indeed not simple. Although he lost to us this time, he will definitely have a place in the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance in the future. Qi Wenhan agreed. Unless it was someone who had a close relationship with him, Lin Yi would not pay too much attention to insignificant people. However, this time was an exception. He was a little interested in the Black Eagle Escort Agency, especially Zhao Shanning. After a short while, an announcement from the judging team shocked everyone again. The Black Eagle Escort Agency challenges the 4 Seas Escort Agency. The crowd was in an uproar. Even a calm person like Lin Yi could not help but be slightly stunned when he heard the announcement. The focus immediately fell on Zhao Shanning. First, he challenged the brilliant super dark horse of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. In the end, he lost by 1 person. In a single battle, he lost 5 experts in the Golden Core realm in the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance. Regardless of whether he died or not, at least these 5 people were definitely crippled in this year's South Continent Escort Agency Grand Meet. Such a price. Even those traditional wealthy families could not afford it, not to mention the newly reorganized Black Eagle Escort Agency. Everyone thought that Zhao Shanning would at least lay low for a period of time, and then pick up a soft persimmon to get back the points that he had just lost. Never had he imagined that this fellow would actually be unyielding to such an extent. he didn't even want to take a break and directly issued another challenge. Moreover, the target of his challenge was actually the traditional overlord of the Four Seas escort agency. At this moment, almost everyone had the same question in their minds. Where did Zhao Shanyin get his confidence from? Although the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was in the limelight this time, in terms of absolute strength, the traditional overlord, the Four Seas Escort Agency, was definitely stronger. This was a widely acknowledged fact. Moreover, his Black Eagle Escort Agency couldn't even defeat the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. How dare they take the initiative to challenge the Four Seas Escort Agency? Wasn't this giving up on themselves? Is he prepared to cut off all means of retreat? He does have the bearing of an ambitious and ruthless character. Lin Yi commented with slight admiration. After losing to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, the Black Eagle Escort Agency's points had dropped from 220 to 120. If they were to lose to the Four Seas Escort Agency again, they would only be left with 20 points. Even if they were not directly eliminated, it wouldn't make much of a difference. This result was a huge blow to the Black Eagle Escort Agency, which was determined to return to the ranks of the top 5 escort agencies. Especially for Zhao Shanyin, it was simply a disaster. He might not even be able to hold on until the next South Continent Escort Agency Grand Festival. The entire agency might have already collapsed. Under such circumstances, even if Lin Yi was in Zhao Shanying's position, he might not have the courage to challenge the Four Seas Escort Agency. Although this was the last chance for the Black Eagle Escort Agency to rise again, they had just experienced a defeat. Not to mention the great loss of strength, even their morale was at a low. What were the chances of winning if they challenged the Four Seas Escort Agency now? Trying to use the Four Seas Escort Agency as a stepping stone? There must be something wrong with this guy's brain. What wishful thinking. Boundless Zhonghai snorted disdainfully and glanced at Zhao Shanyin in the distance. He originally thought that this person had some ability. If he was more sensible, it would not be impossible to help the Black Eagle Escort Agency become one of the top 5. But now, it seemed that Zhao Shanyin was just an arrogant person who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. After a while, both sides were ready. When they appeared, there was an uproar in the audience. On the stage were the participating escorts, all of whom were experts in Golden Core perfection. It was not strange for the Four Seas Escort Agency to send out 5 Golden Core perfection experts. However, the Black Eagle Escort Agency had just lost 5 Golden Core perfection experts. Now, they immediately sent out another 5. Such a move was a little shocking. It could be seen that the Black Eagle Escort Agency's slogan of returning to the top 5 escort agencies was not just for show. TCH, so what if you have 5 Golden Core perfection experts? Even among experts of the same level, the difference in strength is like heaven and earth. A random escort from a grassroots escort agency like you dares to challenge the elite escorts of my Four Seas Escort Agency? Do you think you're worthy? Boundless Sea sneered. Zhao Shanyin had great confidence in his escorts, but Boundless Sea, as the undisputed hegemon of the traditional guilds, had even more confidence than Zhao Shanyin. No matter how disdainful Boundless Sea was, in the eyes of most people, this escort agency competition was definitely a battle between the strong. The 2 matches in a row were hot-blooded battles of the top 5. The spectators, who had traveled thousands of miles to watch the show, cheered in satisfaction. In reality, this duel did not disappoint the crowd. From the very beginning, the situation on both sides had become extremely tense. Unlike the nimble tactics of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency, both sides followed very traditional battle tactics. When the mutual deception on the tactical level had dissipated, the only thing that remained was the desperate fight of the escorts on the arena. It was a bloody battle. This was truly a bloody battle. Blood constantly spilled on the stage. The escorts from both sides were eliminated one after another. Those who were heavily injured and on the verge of death could be considered lucky. Among them, 5 died on the spot. In the end, there was only one person left on the stage. This time, it was the Black Eagle escort agency who had the last laugh. Looking at the blood-soaked Black Eagle escort standing on the stage, watching his swaying figure on the verge of collapsing, the entire cold magic plaza fell silent. After 2 tough battles in a row, they had first lost to the Heaven's Equal escort agency. Now, they had dramatically regained their dignity against the 4 Seas escort agency, which was even more powerful. No one knew what to say about such a miraculous turn of events. Chapter 44-64. On the other side, Boundless Sea, who was sitting in the middle of the judging panel, watched all of this from afar. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He still couldn't believe it. How could the elites of the 4 Seas escort agency lose? He could only watch as the 4 Seas escort agency's points plummeted from 240 to 140. No matter how much Boundless Sea didn't believe it, he could only helplessly accept reality. Sent, motherfucker. This bullshit Black Eagle escort agency lost to the Heaven's Equal escort agency, and now they're venting their anger on the 4 Seas escort agency. How preposterous. Wah! Boundless Sea gnashed his teeth in anger. His first reaction wasn't to hate Zhao Shanning, but to glare at the distant Lin Yi with hatred. He cursed in his heart, Ling 1, Heaven's Equal escort agency, I won't let you have it easy. I won't. Just you wait. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that this person was such a weirdo. As the head escort of a traditional overlord, he didn't even have this much bearing. Moreover, he was venting his anger on him for no reason. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he knew what Boundless Sea was thinking right now, his first thought would be that Boundless Sea had gone crazy, that he was hopeless, that he was a classic case of paranoia. Of course, Lin Yi didn't know what Boundless Sea was thinking. He didn't care about what Boundless Sea was thinking. Boundless Sea was the overlord of the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance, but in Lin Yi's eyes, he didn't have any weight to speak of. He was just an arrogant passerby. That was all. Some were happy, some were sad. After the intense battle between the Black Eagle Escort Agency and the 4 Seas Escort Agency, the 5th round of the Escort Agency competition continued. As long as there was a chance for them to advance further, no matter how small, no one was willing to fall behind. After all, the ranking of the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance would directly determine their business prospects for the next 5 years. This was their rice bowl. And in these battles, for a time, the one in the limelight wasn't the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency or the 4 Seas Escort Agency, but the Black Eagle Escort Agency under Zhao Shanning. The Dark Hawk Escort Agency's arena battles were too intense. After fighting head-on against the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and the 4 Seas Escort Agency, although they had used up their right to initiate challenges twice, they still had 2 chances to be challenged. He did not know if someone was deliberately instructing them, or if these escort agencies really wanted to take advantage of the fact that the Black Eagle Escort Agency's vitality was greatly weakened, so that they could quickly step on them. In any case, the 2 chances to be challenged were used up in less than an hour. Although the opponents of these 2 battles were not as gimmicky as the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and the 4 Seas Escort Agency, they were not weak either. At least, they were stable escort agencies that were above average. On the other hand, the mysterious Eagle Escort Agency had already used up a total of 10 experts in the Golden Elixir Realm Consummation, so it was impossible for them to send out such a strong lineup again. In both battles, there was only 1 expert in the Golden Elixir Realm Consummation. However, even so, the Black Eagle Escort Agency still managed to have the last laugh. Even if the team that Zhao Shanning brought up was not a first-line lineup, it was enough to defeat these mid-tier escort agencies. They still appeared to be at ease and unassailable. In the 4 battles, apart from losing to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency at the beginning, the next 3 battles included the 4 Seas Escort Agency. They won all of them, and the Black Eagle Escort Agency's points shot up to 420 points. Previously, they were in a precarious position. But now, they had entered the top 5, and were in 4th place. Of course, if it weren't for the fact that the other major escort agencies had also obtained a significant number of points, the Black Eagle escort agency's results would have been in the top 3 before. On the other hand, as the host of this year's conference, the Four Seas escort agency was already in 3rd place after the first 4 rounds. Now that they had suffered a blow from the Black Eagle escort agency, even if they won 2 battles in a row, they were still unable to reverse their decline. They were in 5th place with 340 points, and were trampled by the Black Eagle escort agency. Facing this helpless result, Boundless Sea was seething with anger. If it wasn't for the fact that the escort agency's helmsman had challenged them at the bottom, giving him a chance to make a comeback and still feeling that he could still control the situation, he would have probably flown into a rage on the spot. In reality, in the 5th round of the Escort Agency Championship, the Four Seas Escort Agency was the same as the other 5 major escort agencies. They had only fought 3 battles, and used up 2 of their rights to challenge and 1 of their rights to be challenged. As for the remaining 1 of their rights to be challenged, it was only for show. After all, not every escort agency was as aggressive as the Black Eagle Escort Agency, and not every person in charge of an escort agency was as bold as Zhao Shanning. Asking them to take the initiative to challenge the Four Seas Escort Agency was a foolish thing that would obviously result in them losing points. They might as well just let them die. In comparison, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Black Eagle Escort Agency, which were also part of the 5 major escort agencies, were much luckier. Because they were more or less looked down upon, their 2 rights to be challenged were not wasted at all, and they delivered a full 200 points to their doorstep. This made the other 5 escort agencies so envious that their eyeballs were about to bleed. Especially Boundless Sea. He had long since regarded 1st place as his in the bag. Now that the 5th round of the Escort Agency Championship was about to end, not only was he unable to close the gap between him and the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, but the gap was growing wider and wider. Now, he was being trampled under the feet of the Black Eagle Escort Agency. How could he endure this? Before this, whether it was the Heavens Equal Escort Agency or the Black Eagle Escort Agency, the public's opinion was always mixed. They were not like the traditional powerhouses like the Four Seas Escort Agency, who were full of praise for them. They felt that these 2 agencies were just nouveau riche with no foundation and could only be proud of themselves for a while. But now, no one would harbor such foolish thoughts. Not only did the Black Eagle Escort Agency's points surpass the Four Seas Escort Agency's, more importantly, they had defeated the Four Seas Escort Agency in the highly prestigious Escort Agency Championship, and this was under the premise that they had fought against the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. If this was considered as having no foundation, then what was the Four Seas Escort Agency? As a result, the Black Eagle Escort Agency's strength was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, enough to become the consensus of the public. Everyone knew that this newly reorganized grassy escort agency's strength was not to be underestimated. At the same time, this also proved another thing: the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's strength was even greater. The Four Seas Escort Agency became the Black Eagle Escort Agency's stepping stone, and the Black Eagle Escort Agency became the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's touchstone. The stronger the Four Seas Escort Agency was, the more it proved that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was truly invincible. Chapter 4465. From this, one could see that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's current lead in the leaderboard was due to their true strength, and not some so-called luck. As a matter of fact, there was no logic to the argument of dogs hit luck. It was not the first time that the South Continent Escort Agency Gala had been held, and the intensity and cruelty of the competition had long exceeded the level of an ordinary competition. Under such circumstances, if a weak escort agency could emerge and laugh all the way to the end purely by sheer luck, was it possible? If that really happened, it could only mean that the 32 South Continent's escort agencies were all fake goods, and none of them were truly wealthy. Otherwise, if there was a truly powerful escort agency, they would not have allowed a clown to take 1st place. That would be a disgrace to the entire South Continent's escort agency alliance. Accompanied by a wave of heavy sounds of the gong, the 5th round of the escort agency competition finally came to an end. After this round of the Law of the Jungle, the situation on the scoreboard had become even more clear and obvious. The first place on the leaderboard was, without a doubt, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, which had surpassed all the other escort agencies behind it with a ridiculously high score of 1,070 points. After eliminating the Black Eagle Escort Agency with much difficulty, Qi Wenhan still held the precious right to initiate 2 challenges in his hands. Naturally, he would not let it go to waste for no reason. After weighing the pros and cons, he finally chose to make a move on the 2 middle-ranked escort agencies. Without any surprises or danger, he obtained 200 points. Only then did his points reach the staggering 4-digit number of Long Feng Wenxue. In fact, after witnessing the Black Eagle Agency trampling over the 4 Seas Escort Agency, Qi Wenhan had thought of adding insult to injury. However, after the previous perilous experience, his father, Qi Mingyuan, was afraid that something might go wrong, and was determined not to let him fight personally. The series of fierce battles had already exhausted much of his strength. If Qi Wenhan did not fight personally, it would be difficult for him to win against the flustered and exasperated 4 Seas Escort Agency. Even if they had Lin Yi as their coach, it would not be enough unless Lin Yi personally fought. However, that was impossible. After all, there was still another round of challenges for the leader of the escort agency. Lin Yi was in the eye of the storm, and so many people were eyeing him with malicious intent. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency was followed by the Divine Wind Escort Agency and the Great Sky Escort Agency. These 2 veteran escort agencies were ranked 2nd and 3rd respectively. The Dark Eagle Escort Agency, which had recently gained strength, was right behind them. He was ranked 4th. As for the ambitious 4 Seas Escort Agency, the publicly acknowledged tyrant of South Continent's escort agencies, they had no choice but to face the awkward situation of being in 5th place. Even with Boundless Sea's thick skin, when someone's gaze swept over him, even if it was just a casual glance, he would feel a burning sensation and be too embarrassed to face anyone. All of this was caused by Ling Yi and the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. Boundless Sea's heart bled. He gritted his teeth and cursed viciously. Other than that, there was nothing else he could do. He could only hope that the upcoming good show would go as he wished. At the same time that he killed Ling Yi and the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, his 4 Seas Escort Agency would be able to snatch back the limelight and continue to be the overlord of the escort agencies. Although the 4 Seas Escort Agency was in an awkward situation, in comparison. Being able to barely get on the last train of the 5 Great Escort Agency meant that they were able to keep their last shred of shame. The truly pitiful one was the South Gate Escort Agency. Previously, it had been one of the 5 Great Escort Agency. But now, after 5 rounds of competition, they were ranked 6th. They had been forced out of the ranks of the 5 Great Escort Agency, instantly losing the halo of a powerhouse and becoming a second-rate escort agency. They couldn't even cry. According to this ranking, it could be foreseen that the future structure of the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance would undergo a huge change. Among this change, only 2 escort agencies would be the true winners. One was the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, and the other was the Dark Eagle Escort Agency. Among them, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's gains were the most exaggerated. This could be seen from the way the managers looked at the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Many of these people were clients of the traditional powerhouses of the 4 Seas Escort Agency. However, it looked like they would soon become history. If everything went according to plan, after the South Continent Escort Agency Grand Meet, the huge orders placed on the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's head would undoubtedly reach an astronomical figure. It would be at least a few times more than the previous years, perhaps even dozens of times more. The more orders there were, the more spiritual jades there would be. The more spiritual jades there were, the more powerful escorts they would be able to recruit, rapidly increase their strength, and obtain more orders. This was a snowball effect. Once things got on the right track, no one would be able to stop the Heavens Equal Escort Agency from rising. However, before that, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had to overcome another hurdle, the upcoming challenge of the agency's helmsman. Just like the 5th round of the Escort Agency Grand Meet, this was also a duel in which each agency had to bet 100 points. The only difference was that this was a one-on-one challenge specifically targeted at the Golden Core stage executives of each agency. Moreover, there was no limit to the number of challenges. This sort of competition did not test the agency's overall strength. Instead, it was entirely dependent on the individual's performance. Luck played a huge part. If an agency was unlucky enough to be challenged by the experts of other agencies, the slightest mistake could lead to the agency's collapse. 100 points per battle, and there was no limit to the number of challenges. No matter how many points they had, they would not be able to afford to lose. Although the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's current 4-digit points were daunting, it was hard to say if they could safely survive the next round. Perhaps they would fall from the clouds into the abyss. One moment, they were at the peak of their power, but the next moment, they would be nothing more than a flash in the pan. As long as the dust hadn't truly settled, there were still variables. Even though the top 5 escort agencies were obvious on the leaderboard, because of the extra segment at the end, even the losers, like the South Gate Escort Agency, still had a chance of making it to the top 5. Who would be ranked among the top 5 agencies and who would have the last laugh? Everything was still up in the air. Alright, on behalf of the judging panel, I will now announce the rules for the final challenge of the agency's helmsman. Boundless Sea suppressed the hatred in his heart and stood up to announce to the crowd, the rules are very simple. The first challenger will be decided by drawing lots. He can challenge any Golden Core stage executive of any agency. The winner of each round can choose to continue the challenge. Of course, he can also choose to forfeit. If the winner forfeits, the right to challenge will be transferred to the loser. If the loser chooses to forfeit, then a new lot will be drawn. The crowd broke into a flurry of discussion. At least on the surface, the rules seemed fair. At the very least, the challenges were not unbridled and completely reckless. Chapter 4466. If the lot drawing process can be guaranteed to be fair and no one tampered with the results, then it sounds reasonable. Everyone will rely on their own strength and luck. There's nothing much to say. Chi Wenhan stared blankly. He had thought that since this challenge was aimed at his own escort agency, it would be as shameless as possible. He didn't think that this rule would sound so righteous and irresponsible. Chi Wenhan was most worried about his own escort agency being ganged up on. Taking turns to wear them down was something even an immortal made of steel wouldn't be able to handle. However, Boundless Sea's rule basically eliminated the possibility of taking turns to wear them down, unless someone won against him or Ling won and kept challenging them. But this way, the other side would also be fighting continuously. Both sides would be on the same starting line. Who would emerge as the victor would be decided by their fists. Brother Chi, do the other escort agencies also have Golden Core stage executives? Lin Yi wasn't so optimistic and suddenly asked. This. Chi Wenhan was at a loss for words. The little bit of joy and excitement he felt from winning the 5th round of the escort agency tournament vanished in an instant. With an ugly expression, he said, I don't know the specifics, but it shouldn't be much. Looks like it. Boundless Sea was probably aiming for this from the start. Lin Yi glanced at the nearby Boundless Sea. At the same time, he glanced at Qing Haonan's group of 3, who were giving him strange looks. He didn't know why, but he had a feeling that these two groups had some sort of connection. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any connection between the two groups. However, Lin Yi's intuition had always been accurate. He could see some clues from their expressions. A moment later, the judging panel picked out the names of all the Golden Core stage executives from the escort agencies and announced it to the public. Sure enough, out of all 32 escort agencies, only 12 of them had Gold Core stage executives, which was less than half of them. Even though the audience had some idea, they were still shocked when they saw this number. Among the 12 escort agencies, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was the most eye-catching. The young master Chi Wenhan and honorary escort head Ling Wan were both on the list. Apart from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, the other 5 major escort agencies, including the newly established Black Eagle Escort Agency, were not on the list. The remaining 11 escort agencies were mostly middling escort agencies. They were neither too strong nor too weak. The Dragon Boat Escort Agency was also one of them. This kind of situation was not difficult to understand. There were many experts among those powerful escort agencies, and it was possible that any ordinary escort had the strength of the late Gold Core stage and above. This was especially so for the Four Seas Escort Agency and the Black Eagle Escort Agency. The number of Golden Core Paragon experts they had was more than enough to count with two hands. As the higher-ups, if they didn't even have the strength of the original infant stage, how could they convince the masses? As for the weaker escort agencies, they were small in scale and didn't have positions such as young head of escort, deputy head of escort, elder, military advisor, and the like. There was no need to set up such positions at all, as it would only result in the decentralization of power. Under normal circumstances, a small escort agency would have at most one or two other escorts in addition to the chief escort. There were no other senior executives. Although the South Continent Escort Agency Festival was a big event, and most of the escort agencies had sent out their elites, it was impossible for them to leave no one behind. At least one escort would be left behind to take care of the rear. As a result, in the list of escorts reported by most of the smaller escort agencies, there was only the chief escort leading the team. It was like a commander without an army. Since he was the chief escort of an escort agency, he couldn't be an expert at the Golden Core stage. Nascent Soul stage was the minimum requirement, so he naturally wasn't on the list. Moreover, there were some escort agencies that were special, but like the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, they had a young escort. Their strength was most likely at the Golden Core stage, but the problem was that most of them were guarding the rear. They couldn't send people all the way here at the last minute, could they? That wasn't realistic. Even if these escort agencies agreed, the festival couldn't wait that long. There weren't any first-rate escort agencies, nor any low-end escort agencies. The most likely ones to have Golden Core higher-ups were those middling escort agencies. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency was the only exception. This was Boundless Sea's original intention in proposing this challenge. By proposing this rule, an escort agency like the Four Seas Escort Agency, which didn't have any Golden Core higher-ups, was naturally invincible. They were the only ones who could challenge others, while others couldn't do anything to them. They could attack or retreat as they pleased. On the contrary, the 12 escort agencies, including the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, had become the real prey. As long as they were interested, they could pounce and take a bite. If it wasn't enough, they could take a second bite, or a third bite. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had the strength to do so. If they weren't strong enough, not only would they not be able to take a bite out of the prey, but they would also be kicked half to death. Qi Wenhan frowned. Although the situation wasn't as bad as he had imagined, it wasn't much better either. Among the 12 prey on the list, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was not only the strongest, but also the one that attracted the most attention. It was almost certain that they would be targeted by others. However, Lin Yi didn't seem worried at all. Even though he knew that this so-called escort agency leader challenge was aimed at him, he didn't take it to heart. The only thing he cared about was whether he had a chance to kill Wu Baoyang. Fortunately, he didn't disappoint me. Lin Yi looked at Wu Baoyang's name on the public list and couldn't help but smile. The conference was about to end, but he still couldn't get a chance to fight Wu Baoyang. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't anxious at all. After all, who was willing to waste time in the South Continent for Wu Baoyang? But now, this additional challenge would make him the target of everyone, but at the same time, it gave him a chance to challenge Wu Baoyang. In comparison, Lin Yi felt that it was a good deal. Anyway, with his current strength, he was absolutely invincible in the Golden Core stage. No matter how many people came to challenge him, they would just be giving away points. It was not worth mentioning at all. Seeing that Lin Yi was so calm, Qi Wenhan couldn't help but be speechless. He admired Lin Yi's strength, but he didn't know how strong Lin Yi was. In the face of such a situation, it was impossible for him not to panic. However, even if he panicked, it was useless. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the escort agency leader challenge officially began. The first thing to do was to draw lots. 5 judges supervised together, and there were countless pairs of eyes watching from below the stage to ensure that no one could cheat. Chapter 44-67. The 32 escorts went up on stage to draw lots according to their current rankings to decide who the first challenger would go to. In order to ensure as much fairness as possible, this time's lots were not drawn openly, but in secret. The people in charge of the escort agencies who went up on stage to draw lots didn't know what the lots meant even if they got their hands on them. They could only wait until all the lots were drawn and the judges announced the labels before they could know the results. As a result, even if they were the last to draw lots, no one had any objections. After all, being the first and being the last was the same. What surprised Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan was that Boundless Sea didn't seem to have any intention of tampering with the lots. Although it was indeed difficult to carry out under-the-table operations under the noses of so many people, it should not really be a problem for this self-proclaimed overlord of the South Continent's escort agency, right? Whether it was the process of drawing lots or the result of the drawing, everything seemed normal. It was just a very pure drawing of lots. It was fair. In the end, the 32 escorts raised their lots high up in the air. Boundless Sea announced the results on behalf of the judges. Everyone's eyes focused on an old man in green. This person was called Fang Heng, the head escort of the Blackwater Escort Agency. In terms of experience, he could be considered a veteran of the South Continent Escort Agency Alliance. He was one of the veterans when the alliance was first established. However, compared to his solid experience, the Blackwater Escort Agency's strength couldn't be put on the stage. Even if they weren't at the bottom, they were at most below average. They had never even entered the top 15. They had nothing to do with being strong. No one expected that the first challenger would fall into the hands of the Blackwater Escort Agency. They didn't know how this head escort Fang would choose. Even though winning the first challenger meant winning the first chance to eat meat, in most people's eyes, the Blackwater Escort Agency didn't have the strength to eat meat. If they challenged someone else, they might just be giving up points for nothing. The safest choice was to not challenge anyone. In any case, their escort agency didn't have any Golden Core experts, so they could sit back and relax. Right now, they were ranked 18th. This result wasn't bad for the Blackwater Escort Agency. As long as they maintained their stability, they would win. On the other hand, if the Blackwater Escort Agency couldn't restrain their ambition and chose to challenge someone else, then it would be very likely that they would end up being eliminated. Under the gaze of the audience, Fang Heng cleared his throat, stepped forward and said in a clear voice, "My Blackwater Escort Agency has decided to challenge the Dragon Boat Escort Agency." As he spoke, Fang Heng glanced at Qing Haonan and the others, and a bone-deep hatred flashed through his eyes. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Challenging the Dragon Boat Escort Agency? Was this chief escort Fang crazy? Although the Dragon Boat Escort Agency wasn't a big escort agency and didn't have any outstanding performances in the past, at least in terms of performance in this year's conference, they were definitely not weak. Now that he was ranked 8th, he could be considered to be worthy of praise. If the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Dark Eagle Escort Agency hadn't attracted everyone's attention, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency would have been in the limelight as well. The Blackwater Escort Agency wouldn't have been able to compete with them. Hee hee. I didn't expect this old escort Fang to be so old and so hot-tempered. He's preparing to take this opportunity to take revenge. Someone in the crowd laughed. That's not surprising. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to swallow it. In the first round of the escort battle, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency killed all 5 of their elite escorts. For the Blackwater Escort Agency, this is a huge blow. Someone who knew the situation explained. The competition has always been this cruel. What's there to be surprised about? Since they can't afford to lose, they shouldn't have come. Then just don't come. Someone snorted disdainfully. That's right. With the Blackwater Escort Agency's meager strength, they're now taking the initiative to challenge the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. Isn't it obvious that they want to be trampled on again? Is this old man stupid? Someone laughed coldly and echoed. TSK TSK, this time the Blackwater Escort Agency is really in danger. The bystanders nodded one after another. Discussions rose one after another. There were those who mocked and ridiculed, those who sympathized with the Blackwater Escort Agency, those who took pleasure in the Blackwater Escort Agency's misfortune, and those who coldly watched from the sidelines. In short, there was no such thing as making a scene. 99% of the people present didn't think the Blackwater Escort Agency would win. Listening to these discussions, Fong Heng's expression was as cold as water. In the first round of the escort battle, because of the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's ruthlessness, the entire Blackwater Escort Agency's vitality was greatly damaged. They lost more than half of the few experts they had. They were absolutely irreconcilable enemies. How could he swallow this resentment? This time, he had decided to throw caution to the wind. It didn't matter how many points he had. It was a rare opportunity. The only thing on his mind now was revenge. Although Fong Heng was a little impulsive, he was a veteran of Jianghu in South Continent. He wasn't stupid at all. This challenge by the helmsman of the escort agency was really a rare opportunity for revenge. If it was like the 5-on-5 escort agency competition just now, which tested the overall strength of the entire escort agency, then the Blackwater Escort Agency naturally wouldn't be a match for the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. But now it was one-on-one, so it was a different story. Fong Heng pulled over the last elite escort of the Blackwater Escort Agency, an expert at the peak of the Gold Core realm. He excitedly and nervously exhorted him for a long time before finally watching him walk onto the arena. Whether or not he could avenge himself, success or failure depended on this one move. Looking at the challenger of the Blackwater Escort Agency on the arena, Qing Haonan, Long Qiba, and Wu Baoliang looked at each other and immediately sneered. From the beginning to the end, they didn't put the Blackwater Escort Agency in their eyes at all. They easily killed their opponents. It was like this in the first round, and naturally, it would be no exception now. The three of them were still worried about how to snatch the right to challenge. They didn't expect the Blackwater Escort Agency to deliver the opportunity to them in the blink of an eye. Heaven was really on their side. Gentlemen, who do you think is better for us to send? Long Qiba immediately asked. He was an expert at the original infant stage, so naturally, he wasn't among the challengers. However, Qing Haonan and Wu Baoliang were both at the peak of the Gold Core realm. Moreover, they were on the list of higher-ups reported by the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. Qing Haonan was the second escort leader, and Wu Baoliang was the military advisor. Of course, although the challenger sent by the Blackwater Escort Agency was an expert at the peak of the Gold Core realm, the three of them didn't put him in their eyes at all. Whether it was Qing Haonan or Wu Baoliang, it would be like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife and making a big fuss over a minor issue. Any elite escort from the Dragon Boat Escort Agency would be enough to solve the problem, but the rules didn't allow it. Although this kind of trash isn't worth mentioning, we must obtain the right to challenge this time. We can't afford to lose. Whether it's you or me, we can't underestimate our opponents. Wu Baoliang and Qing Haonan looked at each other and said. Chapter 4471, Can't Wait. Chapter 4468. Military advisor is right. So, which one of you will go? Long Qiba looked back and forth between the two of them. Then let me do it. Military advisors' martial arts are extraordinary and unpredictable. It's hard to hide. When you make a move later, it'll be easy to scare Ling Yi. If he refuses to fight when we challenge the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, then we'll have to put in more effort. Military advisor should conserve your qi and use it on Ling Yi later, Qing Haonan suggested. Alright, let's do it. Wu Baoliang nodded and looked at Cheng Haonan in surprise. He thought that since this guy wanted to take revenge for Qing Ketian, he would personally fight Ling Yi. After all, only by killing one's enemy would it be satisfying. He did not expect Wu Baoliang to push the opportunity to him. It was really surprising. Little did he know that this was Cheng Haonan's craftiness. He really wanted to kill Ling Yi, but he did not want to do it himself. After all, Ling Yi's various identities and relationships were there. Even if it was a duel in the arena, Cheng Haonan did not want to be involved in this kind of grudge. Hence, using Wu Baoliang's knife to kill was the safest and easiest. Wu Baoliang did not think of this and did not think much about it. Unlike Cheng Haonan, who was a cunning Jianghu boss, he was just a simple evil cultivator. He would kill anyone he wanted to kill without considering the consequences. At most, he would just change places and continue to hide like before. After the three of them discussed, Cheng Haonan immediately represented the Dragon Boat Escort Agency and slowly walked up to the arena to accept the challenge. They actually let this guy go? Aren't they overestimating the Blackwater Escort Agency? Qi Wenhan was stunned when he saw this. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Poison Eye mercenary group were old enemies. Even though he had not personally fought with Cheng Haonan, he at least knew his approximate strength. On the surface, he was at the golden core perfection, but in reality, he was not much weaker than his father. Letting a character like Cheng Haonan deal with a mere golden core perfected expert, wasn't that bullying? Lin Yi was also a little surprised, but he did not say much. Instead, he observed Cheng Haonan's every move. Because of Qing Ketian, this person was bound to become his enemy. It was just that this guy had never fought before, so he had never had the chance to see through his strength. This was an opportunity. Whether it was Qi Wenhan or Lin Yi, they both thought that this would be an easy battle. After all, Cheng Haonan was the boss of the Poison Eye mercenary group. If he didn't even have this little bit of strength, then it would really be nonsense. However, this battle took an entire half an incense stick's time to finish. The challenger from the Blackwater Escort Agency was kicked off the arena by Cheng Haonan by one move, ending the battle. Everyone from the Blackwater Escort Agency, especially the chief escort Fang Heng, turned ashen when they saw this. They didn't even need to go closer to take a closer look to know that their escort, who had been kicked off the arena, was definitely going to die. His chest had been pierced through, leaving behind a huge bloody hole through his heart. Fang Heng blacked out. He fainted on the spot, and the people around him became flustered. The entire Blackwater Escort Agency was in a mess. Not only did they lose 100 points in this battle, but the most important thing was that this escort was the last elite of the Blackwater Escort Agency. All the elites had been annihilated, and all of them had died at the hands of the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. How could they survive this? Cheng Haonan watched this scene from the arena with pride, and he grinned without a trace. However, in order to keep a low profile, he didn't say anything. Otherwise, his previous efforts would have been wasted. During the entire process, Cheng Haonan didn't show any overwhelming strength. He gave people the feeling that he was just an ordinary golden core perfected expert, and there was nothing special about him. He just didn't want to frighten Ling Yi. This is a good show. If I didn't know that he was the boss of the Poison Eye mercenary group, I might have really been fooled. Lin Yi smiled when he saw this. But he still didn't finish his show. If they were really so anxious, how could his last kick be so clean and decisive? He didn't even give his opponent a chance to breathe. Qi Wenhan curled his lips disapprovingly. Let's see what they are going to do next. I feel that it's time for me to go on stage. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Qi Wenhan was stunned for a moment, and then reacted. He hurriedly said, Brother Ling, Cheng Haonan is not a person to be underestimated. If they really want to challenge him, let me go. Are you his opponent? Lin Yi asked in return. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but choke. He wanted to be more stubborn, but in the end, he could only say honestly, no, although I haven't fought with him directly, I still know my own strength. It's more appropriate to let my father deal with him personally. Then that's it. Lin Yi smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and said, if they are coming for me, Brother Qi, you won't be able to do anything. Instead, you'll die for nothing. Don't worry, I can't guarantee anything else, but I'm confident in this. But Qi Wenhan still wanted to say something, but seeing Lin Yi's determined expression, he knew that he couldn't persuade him otherwise. He could only shut his mouth and say, okay then, Brother Ling, be careful. If you see that the situation is not good, jump off the stage. It's just that you'll lose some points. The escort agency being able to reach this stage is all thanks to you. We are already very satisfied. Even if we lose everything, it's fine. Brother Ling, your safety is the most important. I know. Lin Yi nodded. On the other side, because of Cheng Haonan's victory, the right to challenge fell to the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. Long Kiba didn't hesitate at all, and directly stood up and announced, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency challenges the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. The entire audience was in an uproar, and the originally tepid atmosphere suddenly heated up. A good show was finally about to begin. The Dragon Boat Escort Agency was originally ranked 8th, and after winning 100 points from the Blackwater Escort Agency, their ranking rose by 2 places, surpassing the South Gate Escort Agency to become the 6th. If they were to win points from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, then they would directly enter the top 5, and enter the ranks of the top 5 escort agencies. I knew it would be like this. Lin Yi smiled, and after exchanging a look with Qi Wenhan, he immediately stepped onto the stage. No matter who his opponent was, he had to win this match. The reason was the same as the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's earlier match. Seeing Lin Yi step onto the stage, Cheng Haonan and the other 2 were instantly overjoyed. They were just thinking about whether or not they should kill Qi Wenhan first, but they didn't expect that it would be so easy. This guy actually took the initiative to step onto the stage. He was really an idiot who didn't even know he was about to die. Chapter 4469. Military Advisor, don't be in a hurry to kill him this round. Let him fight a few more rounds. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency has so many points. We can snatch them all away one by one. Long Kiba hurriedly urged. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency had 1,070 points. As long as he challenged them 11 times in a row, he could transfer all these points to himself. By then, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency would be directly eliminated, and the Dragon Boat Agency would become the new hegemon of the escort agencies. No one would be able to compete with them. Yes. Killing him in one go is too easy on him. No matter what, we should at least let him be half dead for 8 or 10 rounds. Cheng Haonan nodded. No problem. Wu Baoliang grinned sinisterly. This brat dared to act arrogantly in front of me. If I don't beat the shit out of him this time, I'm not Wu Baoliang. With that, Wu Baoliang stood up on the stage with a strange and inexplicable evil aura. He stood in front of Lin Yi not too far away, and just looked at Lin Yi with a pair of triangular yin-yang eyes, neither yin nor yang. At the same time, Lin Yi looked at this guy and could not help but laugh. He was thinking the same thing as his opponent. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, but by chance you get what you want without even looking for it. Brat, tell me the trick that hid the darts, and I can spare your life, Wu Baoliang suddenly said with a sinister smile. Wu Baoliang suddenly laughed. He had no interest in Lin Yi, and the only thing that bothered him was the previous time he hid the darts. He really couldn't think of any tricks that could hide from his annihilation of all things. You want to know? Guess it yourself, but you don't have much time left. If you die with doubts, I'm afraid you won't be able to rest in peace, Lin Yi replied with a faint smile. But in his heart, Lin Yi didn't relax at all. He had absolute confidence in his own strength, but he would never be blindly arrogant, and he would never underestimate his opponent. Not to mention that he was fighting against the enemy right now. Moreover, he also felt an unusual aura. This evil cultivator, Wu Baoyang, was not as simple as he thought. Jia, kid, you are very arrogant. Wu Baoyang laughed unscrupulously. He pointed at Lin Yi and said disdainfully, but it's okay. If I want to do something, no one can stop me. It's okay if you don't want to tell me the little trick of hiding the darts now. You will take the initiative to tell me later. It will just take a little effort. Oh, then I'll wait. Lin Yi's face was calm and collected. He was already a dead man in Wu Baoyang's eyes, but was Wu Baoyang a living person in his eyes? In terms of strength, both of them were valiant existences that could instantly kill an original infant stage cultivator. It was just that they were wearing a layer of golden core stage. Both of them had absolute confidence in themselves. However, there was one thing that both of them did not know: the true strength of the other party. After all, they had not directly fought against each other. What little he knew before was just hearsay. Before the battle had even begun, the smell of gunpowder was already thick between them. The spectators below the stage were all in high spirits. There was no lack of people with outstanding eyesight among them. Needless to say, Lin Yi, who was in the limelight before, even Wu Baoyang, who had a strange aura, was by no means an ordinary person in their eyes. This battle, of course, became the focus of the battle. Everyone secretly speculated in their hearts. Since the two people on the stage had such a strong aura, their true strength was naturally not to be underestimated. The executive referee gave the order. A long incense was lit on the side of the stage as usual. Lin Yi versus Wu Baoyang. The long-awaited duel between both sides had officially begun. Preemptive strike. Lin Yi took the lead and used the butterfly micro-steps. His figure was like a ghost, moving in a very mysterious arc and rapidly approaching Wu Baoyang. Jia, you talk big. I thought you were strong. In the end, you are just a small fry in the middle stage of Golden Core stage. Even if you jump, how far can you jump? You really disappoint me. Seeing this, Wu Baoyang laughed strangely. Facing the rapidly approaching Lin Yi, he did not dodge. An evil black aura suddenly emerged from his body, and he raised his hand and punched. Since the opponent had made it clear that he wanted to fight head-on, Lin Yi naturally would not let go of this opportunity. With his strength, facing an expert in the Golden Core perfection, it would be difficult for him to be at a disadvantage in a head-on fight. After all, Lin Yi had never been the kind of arrogant person who would underestimate his opponent. A thick layer of fire shadow suddenly covered his legs that were as fast as the wind. Lin Yi did not stop at all and immediately swept out with 1,000 legs of frenzied inferno. An ordinary expert in the Golden Core perfection would not be able to withstand this kick. It was enough to test Wu Baoyang's strength. Bang! On one side was Lin Yi's 1,000 legs of frenzied inferno, and on the other side was Wu Baoyang's strange black fist. Accompanied by the muffled sound of iron bones colliding, a monstrous wave of chi suddenly set off on the arena. Everyone's expression suddenly changed. These two people were really strong. Amidst the shockwaves, a figure suddenly flew out of the ring and landed on the edge of the ring. If it wasn't for this person's quick reflexes and punching into the ring's floor to increase the resistance, he would have fallen off the ring. In other words, the outcome of this duel was almost decided in a single move. Brother Ling. Qi Wenhan's eyes suddenly widened. At the same time, everyone in the Equal of Heaven escort agency was also shocked. This was because the figure that was sent flying was actually Lin Yi. Because of all the previous magical deeds, the Equal of Heaven escort agency's confidence in Lin Yi could be said to be unparalleled, even to the point of blind worship. After all, this was an existence that could cripple an early nascent soul stage master like Old Kong. Even Qi Wenhan, who had the title of Invincible Golden Core Stage, felt inferior. Now that he was facing an expert in the Golden Core stage, how could he lose? However, such an invincible person was actually sent flying by Wu Baoyang, who was full of evil aura. Qi Wenhan did not believe it, Qi Mingyuan did not believe it, Housekeeper Song did not believe it, and everyone in the Equal of Heaven escort agency did not believe it. However, the truth was right in front of them, and they had to believe it. It seemed that Lin Yi really was not Wu Baoyang's opponent. Qi Wenhan was so anxious that he was jumping up and down. He could give up the points, but he could not let anything happen to Lin Yi. Just like what was said before, if there was no other way, he could take the opportunity to jump off the arena and admit defeat. This way, at least he could ensure his safety. Unfortunately, this kind of thing was destined to not be in line with Lin Yi's character. At this moment, in the arena, Lin Yi stabilized his body and stood up. Apart from some numbness in his legs, he did not suffer any serious injuries. He just looked a little embarrassed. This guy's strength is actually no less than a mid-nascent soul stage master. Lin Yi looked at Wu Baoyang from afar and suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Chapter 4470. Lin Yi did not expect Wu Baoyang, an inhumane evil cultivator, to have such exaggerated strength. Even with his mental fortitude, he could not help but be shocked. Even though Lin Yi had always been cautious, he was still a little careless this time. After all, in the minds of ordinary people, the evil cultivator's strength was indeed amazingly fast, but they often did not have any foundation. Most of them only had a superficial level, and there were not many who could maintain a normal level, let alone challenge someone of a higher level. Little did he know that even among the evil cultivators, Wu Baoyang was definitely an anomaly. Just like Lin Yi, he could not be judged by common sense. How about it? It's not too late to back out now. Kid, are you going to tell me about the hidden darts trick? Wu Baoyang sneered and said disdainfully. So persistent? Guess it yourself. Lin Yi suddenly laughed. Putting aside his identity as an evil cultivator, Wu Baoyang's spirit of getting to the bottom of the matter was rare. People who were persistent in studying were generally not simple people. It could be seen that it was not without reason that Wu Baoyang had the strength he had today. TSK, you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin, right? Since you're so stubborn, I might as well be a good person and fulfill your wish. As Wu Baoyang spoke, the black gas emitted from his body suddenly became thicker, like billowing black smoke, instantly soaring into the sky. Seeing this, the people below immediately exclaimed one after another. They looked at each other and discussed animatedly. There was no lack of knowledgeable people in the crowd. If it was another occasion, they might have quickly realized that Wu Baoyang was actually an evil cultivator. But now, no one had reacted. After all, this was the South Continent Escort Association's event, and everyone present was a righteous expert. Those evil cultivators would definitely be killed if they saw the light of day. Even if they were crazy and courted death, they would never dare to come to such a place. After discussing for a while, the final conclusion that everyone came to was surprisingly consistent. Wu Baoyang should be an extremely rare person with a mutated spiritual root. A cultivator with at least 5 conventional spiritual root attributes. There had never been a case of black gas emitting from his body, so it could only be an endless stream of mutated spiritual root attributes. The world was big, and there were all sorts of strange things, especially in the South Continent Sea, where all sorts of people were mixed together. People from all walks of life could be seen everywhere, and there were hidden dragons and crouching tigers everywhere. The sudden appearance of a mysterious expert was a common occurrence, and everyone was already used to it. They would never have guessed that Wu Baoyang was not a mutated spiritual root at all. He was an evil cultivator through and through. He actually dared to openly appear in the South Continent Escort Agency's grand gathering, and he even dared to enter the arena unscrupulously. There was a distance of 150 feet between them. Lin Yi looked at Wu Baoyang warily. The thick black gas on Wu Baoyang's body gave him an inexplicable feeling of fear. Even though he knew that the other party was a heretic cultivator. However, even Lin Yi could not determine whether the black aura was a characteristic of the evil cultivator or if Wu Baoyang really had a mutated spiritual root. No matter what, at least one thing was certain: this black gas was extremely dangerous. Lin Yi was on high alert as he confronted his opponent. At the same time, he recalled the scene from before and analyzed it. He was thinking of countermeasures. Wu Baoyang's fist that was covered in black gas clearly did not use his full strength, but its power was simply shocking. Lin Yi's raging flame thousand legs could not be matched head-on. If he had not used his vital energy to protect his body in time, his entire leg would have been crippled. Looking at the sneering Wu Baoyang, Lin Yi suddenly felt a sense of crisis. From the moment he broke through to the gold core stage until now, he had experienced a lot of risks, especially when he faced many nascent soul stage masters. However, to be honest, Lin Yi really did not feel any sense of crisis. Instead, he unknowingly had a tendency to inflate his ego a little. After all, he was the strongest gold core stage master who had a perfect breakthrough. Especially when facing nascent soul stage masters, he almost never suffered a loss. Instead, he repeatedly gained the upper hand. If this situation continued for a long time, anyone would become inflated. If he was a little more arrogant, he might even feel that he was invincible. Of course, Lin Yi would not be so stupid and arrogant, but it was inevitable that he was overconfident. Otherwise, he would not have felt that he could defeat Wu Baoyang for no reason before he fought with him. Fortunately, it was not too late to realize this. Cultivation was to cultivate the mind. If Lin Yi continued to cultivate with this mentality without realizing it, when he reached the nascent soul stage or even higher realms, it was very likely that it would evolve into an inner demon. If it was light, it would be difficult to improve. If it was heavy, he would go berserk. That would be really troublesome. Therefore, Lin Yi really had to thank Wu Baoyang for letting him see himself again. You talk so tough, but why don't you dare to make a move? Are you afraid of being beaten up? Are you ready to hide like a turtle? Wu Baoyang saw Lin Yi's expression as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He grinned proudly and said ferociously, "Since you don't dare to fight, then I will take the initiative to send you on your way." Violent Sand Thousand Explosive Fist. As soon as he finished speaking, the black gas on Wu Baoyang's body became more and more rampant. It spread out and almost enveloped half of the arena. At the same time, wherever the black gas passed, the yellow sand on the arena and the surrounding ground was suspended in the air. It whistled and was sucked into the black gas, forming a monstrous sandstorm. Because the speed was too fast, the sound of breaking through the air could be heard one after another. It was really frightening. Lin Yi suddenly felt a chill in his heart. The punch just now was just a small test. This was Wu Baoyang's real strength. Although he had not experienced the specific power of this move, he could see from this strange and evil formation that it was definitely not a small matter. In the black gas storm, Wu Baoyang's figure was faintly discernible. Only the pair of triangular yin-yang eyes remained clear, with a trace of inexplicable terror. It was as if a demon had descended, and no one dared to look directly at it. With a sneer, Wu Baoyang slowly punched at Lin Yi. In an instant, the black gas swept towards Lin Yi with the sandstorm. Qi Wenhan and the others in the arena were anxious when they saw this. If it was another open space, even if they could not win, there would at least be a chance to escape. However, it was a duel in the arena. The space was so small, and the black gas storm was pressing down on him. At this moment, Lin Yi did not even have a chance to turn around. Without any suspense, Lin Yi's figure was instantly swallowed by the black gas storm. The audience in the arena exclaimed. At this time, it was impossible to see the situation in the arena with their eyes alone. They could only use their divine sense to perceive. Even so, they could only detect a vague idea. Chapter 4471. The black sand created by Wu Baoyang, even though it could not completely isolate the divine sense like the sea miasma, could more or less achieve some similar effects. Isolating divine sense, this was a very exaggerated thing for ordinary cultivators. The vast majority of people could not reach such a height even in their lifetime. This required a very high talent for divine sense, and at the same time, diligent cultivation to have a trace of a chance to achieve it. Everyone was amazed. Wu Baoliang, who suddenly appeared out of nowhere, was unknown and had no reputation at all. They did not expect him to be such a genius. At this moment, in the black sand, Lin Yi did not give up. This was not his style at all. Although it was difficult to completely see everything around him with the divine sense, with Lin Yi's keen perception and the jade pendant, it was enough to see through the potential danger in advance. The moment he was shrouded in the black sand, Lin Yi immediately made a judgment. The role of the black gas was mostly to block perception and isolate the divine sense. It should not be too much of a threat. The real fatal thing should be the hidden sand that gathered into a fierce flow. Therefore, even if it looked extremely dangerous, as long as he could avoid the sand and fierce flow hidden in the black gas, he should be able to break the opponent's 1,000 sand-bursting fist. Of course, it was easy to say, but to actually do this was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Because there were not just 1 or 2 strands of violent sand currents hidden in the black gas, but hundreds and thousands of them. Moreover, they were extremely fast. Under the premise that the perception of the divine sense was blocked, it was easier said than done to completely avoid it. Even if he had the jade pendant, it would not work because there were dangers in all directions. However, since he was trapped in the opponent's black sand, Lin Yi could not just give up, let alone sit there and wait for death. No matter how slim the chance was, he had to give it a try. Using the butterfly's subtle steps with all his strength, Lin Yi's figure kept flashing back and forth under the black veil, like a ghost. Erratic and erratic. You still don't give up? Then I'll play with you. Wu Baoliang's trademark sneer sounded especially ear-piercing in the black sand. He hadn't even finished his sentence when the hundreds of streams of sand rushed towards Lin Yi from all directions. The sound of the sand breaking through the air was getting sharper and sharper, making one's scalp go numb. If it was someone who wasn't brave enough, they'd probably be scared half to death, not to mention dodging the black energy and sand. However, Lin Yi was still calm and composed as he faced the encirclement of hundreds of violent sandstorms. Ordinary people would have already lost their heads out of fear, not knowing what to do. However, Lin Yi's figure flickered in and out of sight, flashing and moving. It was clear that the wild sand and vicious currents surrounded him from all directions without any gaps to speak of. However, Lin Yi relied on his extremely agile movements to squeeze out a gap and successfully avoided the first round of encirclement. This time, Wu Baoliang, who was still a little careless and thinking of playing a cat-and-mouse game, was really shocked. The 1,000 violent sand fist was his strongest trump card. In the past, once he used it, he would definitely be able to easily kill his opponent. Even when facing an opponent in the nascent soul stage, it was still effective. He didn't expect that he would have to deal with a mere middle stage gold core stage. There were some twists and turns. No wonder this kid could cripple an expert in the early nascent soul stage like Old Kong. It seemed that he did have some skills. However, this was still far from enough. Wu Baoliang's triangular yin-yang eyes condensed a murderous aura. Wherever the black gas shrouded was a domain that he could control with his mind. The violent sandstorms continued to swirl rapidly around Lin Yi's body, and soon formed a huge sand whirlpool, with Lin Yi right in the center of the whirlpool. Unable to advance or retreat, Lin Yi suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. Even if he didn't touch the sand, he knew that it must be extremely dangerous. It was definitely not as simple as ordinary yellow sand. As long as the speed of anything reached the extreme, even if it was just a small grain of sand, it could easily kill people. This was the principle of flying leaves and flowers, let alone such a turbulent sand whirlpool. In this situation, no matter how exquisite and agile Lin Yi's movements were, it was impossible for him to pass through the sand whirlpool unscathed. Before the other party attacked, there was only one way to deal with it, and that was to force his way out. At this time, there must be no hesitation. Lin Yi knew this very well. Without saying a word, He immediately circulated his chi and raised his hand to perform the 30 styles of the raging fire 8 trigrams palm. This was his most powerful martial arts skill at the moment. Whether he could break through the encirclement or not, success or failure depended on this move. Boom! The people outside the arena only heard a sudden bang. As for what happened in the arena, they couldn't sense it clearly. They could only look at each other in dismay. In the middle of the black sand, Wu Baoyang's expression suddenly changed. This kid actually broke through his sand whirlpool. For a moment, even Wu Baoyang had to look at Lin Yi in a new light. The previous dodging maneuvering could be said to be a trick, but this was a completely head-on collision. Even those experts at the peak of the early nascent soul stage would find it difficult to have such amazing destructive power. This Ling Yi, who came out of nowhere, seemed to be really extraordinary. After blasting out a passage with one palm, Lin Yi suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and quickly took the opportunity to retreat. If even this did not work, then he would really be in danger today. With Lin Yi's super trump card, no matter how strong the opponent was, as long as he was given enough time to accumulate power, he would definitely be able to laugh in the end. There was no doubt about this. However, at this moment, suddenly there was a cold shout from Wu Baoyang in the distance. Explode! Instantly, Lin Yi's hair stood on end. He suddenly realized that this move was not the Raging Sand Fist, but the Raging Sand Thousand Explosive Fist. Everything before was just a preparation. The most important thing was the word explode, which was the real fatal part. Unfortunately, it was already too late for him to come to this realization at this moment. Boom! 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 The continuous loud sounds were like dense firecrackers, instantly resounding throughout the entire Demon Leng Square. Everyone in the arena was shocked, and they looked at the arena in horror. They were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths for a long time. Although they still did not know what was happening in the arena due to the black chi, there were many knowledgeable people present. Even if they used their toes to guess the power behind such a strong tremor, they could guess it. Chapter 4472. Qi Wenhan and the others were all tensed up, staring at every movement in the ring. Even if they couldn't see what was going on inside, they wouldn't let go of the slightest change, fearing that something might happen to Lin Yi. Greater than over equal to 4 all greater than over equal to 4 all. A moment later, a figure in a sorry state suddenly fell out of the ring. Everyone's worries turned into reality. The person who fell out was Lin Yi. Brother Ling. How are you? Qi Wenhan hurriedly shouted and rushed over. At this moment, Lin Yi's whole body was surrounded by black gas, giving people the feeling that he had been corroded by the black gas. Moreover, there were burn marks everywhere, and some places were even badly mutilated. It was a shocking sight. The audience was in an uproar when they saw this. This battle that no one could see actually ended with Ling Yi, who was in the limelight, being blown out of the ring miserably. It was somewhat unexpected, but also reasonable. Qi Wenhan was at a loss of what to do. Like a headless fly, he circled around Lin Yi, not knowing what to do for a moment. He did not know how to treat it, and he could not even see what kind of injury Lin Yi had suffered and how serious the injury was. He could only stare at the side, rubbing his hands and feeling anxious. Fortunately, Lin Yi's injury was not as serious as everyone thought. Although he looked miserable at first glance, and his injuries were not light, it was not to the point of serious damage to his vitality. At least he could still sit up and heal himself. Of course, this was mainly because he used a lot of qi to protect his body, and also because Wu Baoyang did not want to kill him. For Lin Yi, as long as he had the physical strength to heal, it was not a big deal. Especially if his muscles and bones were not injured, it would only take a moment for him to recover to his peak. Lin Yi knew that it was not a big problem, but his current state was more than miserable in the eyes of others. He was simply a cripple on the verge of death. There were wounds all over his body. Moreover, there were traces of ominous black gas. If this was not a sign that he was about to die, what was it? The black gas on the arena dissipated, and Wu Baoyang's figure reappeared in front of everyone. Compared to before, everyone looked at him with more respect. This was the treatment that an expert deserved. I declare that the Dragon Boat Escort Agency has won. You can now challenge the next opponent. The referee announced the result. As a result, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency had snatched 100 points from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and moved up one rank. It had risen from 6th to 5th, and had become one of the top 5 escort agencies as it wished. The escort agency that had been squeezed out of the top spot was the most popular escort agency overlord, the 4 Seas Escort Agency. Seeing the real-time changes in the rankings, Boundless Sea, who was sitting in the middle of the referee group, had his face turn as black as the bottom of a pot. His face was so gloomy that it was dripping water. Indeed, no matter if it was a challenge from the leader of this escort agency. It was Wu Baoyang who stood out to deal with Ling Yi. All of this had been personally planned by Boundless Sea, and it had achieved the desired results. However, his 4 Seas escort agency had been pushed out of the top 5 by the Dragon Boat Agency. This wasn't part of Boundless Sea's plan. In the beginning, he had planned for his 4 Seas escort agency to reach 2nd place after the 5th round of the competition. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to his wishes. The sudden rise of the Black Eagle escort agency had ruined his plan. Not only had they failed to reach 2nd place, they had fallen to 5th place instead. And now, they had even made such a blunder. The great escort agency overlord had actually been pushed out of the top 5 escort agencies. Seeing this embarrassing ranking on the rankings, Boundless Sea felt like his face had been smashed to pieces. He couldn't go out and meet people anymore. However, now that things had reached this point, it was too late for Boundless Sea to regret it. Moreover, the good show had only just begun. As long as he continued to develop according to his plan, the 4 Seas escort agency still had a chance to make a comeback. Boundless Sea could only bury his head like an ostrich. He couldn't help but console himself. Right now, he was only temporarily being stepped on by someone else. A bit of awkwardness was unavoidable, but only the one who had the last laugh would be the true winner. At this moment, apart from Qi Wenhan and the others who were circling around Lin Yi, everyone else's gazes were focused on Wu Baoyang. They only wanted to know one question: who was he going to challenge next? The 12 escort agencies on the leaderboard were all panicking, especially the Golden Core experts who were on the leaderboard. They were afraid that their agency's name would jump out from Wu Baoyang's mouth next. Losing points was a small matter, but they were afraid of losing their lives. I've decided to challenge the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Wu Baoyang sneered from the corner of his eyes. As soon as these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar again. They had already won once, yet they weren't satisfied. They actually wanted to challenge again. Wasn't this clearly showing that they wanted to destroy the Heavens Equal Escort Agency? Previously, everyone thought that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was in the limelight. Their faces were filled with unconcealable envy and jealousy. However, after hearing Wu Baoyang's words, their envy and jealousy instantly disappeared. Instead, they looked at the Heavens Equal Escort Agency with sympathy. In front of Wu Baoyang and the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was not a super dark horse. They were purely a piece of juicy meat. Looking at their stance, they definitely wouldn't rest until they devoured this piece of meat. The Heavens Equal Escort Agency's tribulation had only just begun. However, in any case, it was the Heavens Equal Escort Agency that was suffering. It had nothing to do with the rest of the crowd. Seeing the 2 escort agencies from the Wayark Sea territory fight to the death, they were happy to watch the show. There were many people who were gloating over their misfortune. Looking at the referee's expressions, especially Boundless Sea's sneer, as if they were watching a good show, Qi Mingyuan couldn't help but feel anxious. Now that Ling Wan was heavily injured, he definitely couldn't go on stage. That meant that the only Golden Core expert left in the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was Qi Wenhan. However, even Ling Wan wasn't Wu Baoyang's opponent, let alone his son, Chi Wenhan. Wasn't this asking him to go on stage and die? Head escort Hi, you've racked your brains to come up with such an unfair challenge. Not only will you be criticized for no reason, but you'll also end up working for someone else. Your 4C's escort agency won't get any benefits at all. Don't you think you're too stupid? Chi Mingyuan looked coldly at Boundless Sea. Even a clay figurine would have some anger, let alone a formidable person like Chi Mingyuan. Now that things had developed to this point, he wasn't afraid of publicly shedding all pretense of cordiality. Chapter 4473. We're all smart people here. We know who's right and who's wrong. Why are you still putting on an act and trying to cover things up? My Heavens Equal escort agency isn't doing well, but I'm afraid your 4C's escort agency is going to end up with nothing. Humph, you're being stepped on by others. What a joke. Chi Mingyuan sneered. According to the rules of the competition, the 4C's escort agency, which didn't have any golden core experts, were undefeatable. However, it was difficult for them to get a share of the spoils. Unless the winner, like the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, gave up on the right to challenge and drew lots again, they wouldn't have a chance. However, the chances of this happening were minuscule. If things continued like this, the 4C's escort agency could only watch from the sidelines. They could only watch as the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's points rose higher and higher, until the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's points rose higher and higher. They couldn't do anything about it. It was obvious that the 4C's escort agency, which had fallen out of the top 5, had become the first victim. Next would be the Black Eagle Escort Agency, the Great Sky Escort Agency, and the Divine Wind Escort Agency. Hearing this, even Zhao Bufan and the others looked at Boundless Sea with unfriendly gazes. They weren't like the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, who was being chased around. Even if their points were affected, it wouldn't be too big. However, the problem was that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had suddenly risen up and stepped on their heads. Now, even the Dragon Boat Escort Agency was stepping on their faces. Who could stand that? They were one of the 5 great escort agency, a traditional powerhouse. How could they tolerate a grassroots escort agency with no background? One by one, they were stepping on their heads. Did they even have any face left? Everyone suddenly realized that Boundless Sea wasn't just shooting himself in the foot. Moreover, their feet were also smashed into the ground. If you insist that I'm targeting your Heavens Equal Escort Agency, aren't you thinking too much? No matter what you think, I have a clear conscience. The rules of the competition are right there. It's fair to everyone. As long as you have the strength, everyone has a chance. If you feel like you're at a disadvantage, that only means that you're not strong enough. You can't blame anyone else, Boundless Sea said righteously. Since Chief Escort C is so unyielding, then I have nothing else to say. Let me give you a word of advice: justice is in the hearts of the people. A clown will never achieve anything. Chi Mingyuan gave Boundless Sea a deep look and didn't say anything else. You should return those words to your Heavens Equal Escort Agency. I feel like it's a short-lived epiphany, but I think it's quite appropriate, Boundless Sea sneered. Seeing Chi Mingyuan and Zhao Bufan's unfriendly expressions, Boundless Sea's previous gloominess disappeared. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. A bunch of ignorant fools. Do you really think that the Dragon Boat Escort Agency will have the last laugh? Do you really think this chief escort's brain is flooded with water? With the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's fatal weakness in his hands, Boundless Sea wasn't afraid of them increasing their points. Even if they did, it wouldn't matter. When the time came, he would release this bomb and the Dragon Boat Escort Agency would lose all of their qualifications. They were nothing to worry about. However, right now, his 4C's escort agency was in 6th place. Even if the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and the Dragon Boat Escort Agency were all eliminated, they would only fall back to 4th place. At most, he would fall back to 4th place. The other escort agencies above him would still take advantage of him. Before that happened, he had to think of a countermeasure. Boundless Sea wasn't going to do something as stupid as giving someone else a gift. Uncle Song, I'll leave the matters of the escort agency to you. I'll go up and fight this Wu Baoyang. Qi Wenhan's expression was cold. After giving this order to housekeeper Song, he immediately prepared to go up and fight. Now that Lin Yi was injured and couldn't go up, he was the only one left. If he didn't go up, who would? Therefore, this time, neither Qi Mingyuan, who was sitting among the judges, nor Steward Song, who was sitting beside him, had any intention of stopping him. Even if they knew that it was dangerous, even if they could be beaten to death, they still had to go. The people of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency were never cowards, not to mention that Qi Wenhan was the young master. The wind was howling, and the water was cold. Qi Wenhan seemed to have the determination to die. He walked towards the arena step by step. However, just as he was about to step onto the arena, Lin Yi's voice suddenly came from behind him. Brother Qi, wait. Brother Ling? Qi Wenhan was overjoyed. He stopped and turned his head to look at Lin Yi with concern. He asked, Brother Ling, how are your injuries? Are they serious? They're fine. It's not a big deal. Lin Yi grinned. After using his qi to heal him, the injuries that Wu Baoyang gave him had mostly healed. They would soon be completely cured. That's good, that's good. Qi Wenhan breathed a sigh of relief. If something really happened to Lin Yi this time, with his personality, he would definitely blame himself to death. Fortunately, Lin Yi's current condition was not bad. It did not seem like he was faking it. Qi Wenhan nodded at Lin Yi. He then turned around and walked towards the arena again. The stone in his heart had finally been lifted. His footsteps were calm and fearless. Even Wu Baoyang, who was in the arena, raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this. Brother Qi, I want to get back at him myself. Don't fight with me, Lin Yi suddenly said from behind. Qi Wenhan stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Lin Yi with a troubled expression. If Lin Yi had said something else, he would have rejected it without a second thought. After all, he was the young master of the escort agency. He had the right to decide who would fight and who would not. Lin Yi had already done so much for the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency and was still injured. How could he let his benefactor continue to fight while injured? Qi Wenhan could not do something like biting the hand that fed him. However, Lin Yi now said that he wanted to get back at Wu Baoyang himself. The implication was that this was a personal grudge between him and Wu Baoyang. In particular, he had been preparing to attack Wu Baoyang for a long time and had waited until today. Under such circumstances, even Qi Wenhan could not intervene. But Qi Wenhan frowned, not knowing what to say. He wouldn't agree to let Lin Yi fight again with an injury like that, however. No buts, Brother Qi. You must listen to me this time. Lin Yi immediately interrupted. He did not have time to convince Qi Wenhan, so he could only use this stubborn method to solve the problem. Seeing that Lin Yi's expression was extremely firm and that he would not give up until he achieved his goal, Qi Wenhan was completely helpless. He could not let Lin Yi fight, but he could not go against Lin Yi's wishes either. He was in a dilemma. Hey, how much longer are you going to delay? Are you going to fight or not? Are the people of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency all such cowards that they don't even have the courage to fight? Wu Baoyang crossed his arms and made sarcastic remarks in the arena. R655. Chapter 4474. Of course, he hoped that Lin Yi would take the field again, but if it was Qi Wenhan, then it wouldn't matter. At most, he would just have to spend a little more effort to get rid of the young master of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. Qi Wenhan's expression froze, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He was about to take the field, but when he saw Lin Yi's gaze, he held back. After spending some time together, he more or less understood Lin Yi's personality. Although he was usually easy to talk to, he was actually very opinionated. If he really decided to do something, even 10 bulls wouldn't be able to hold him back. I'll still take the field for the equal of heaven escort agency. But according to the rules, I should be able to rest for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, right? Lin Yi said lightly. Sure. The executive judge glanced at Lin Yi. There were already people lighting incense at the side of the field. Only half of the time had passed, so Lin Yi could at least rest for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Humph, all right then, I'll let you live for another half an hour. Wu Baoyang laughed coldly. He knew very well how terrifying the power of the 1,000 sand-bursting fist was, so he wasn't worried about whether Lin Yi would be able to recover. It was simply impossible. In fact, if he hadn't deliberately held back at the last moment, Lin Yi would already be a corpse by now. How could he possibly live until now? Brother Ling, then I'll leave it to you. But again, don't force yourself. You can lose your points, but you can't have anything happen to you. Qi Wenhan could only helplessly remind him. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Lin Yi nodded, then closed his eyes again. To outsiders, it seemed like he was just taking advantage of the last half an incense stick of time to sharpen his spear. Little did they know, after the last half an incense stick of time, Lin Yi had already recovered to his peak condition. The reason why he continued to meditate on the ground, other than to confuse Wu Baoyang and the outsiders, was that Lin Yi actually had another more important thing to do. He was continuously simulating Wu Baoyang's 1,000 sand-bursting fist in his mind. Although Wu Baoyang was an evil cultivator, Lin Yi had never really put this person in his eyes before, but after experiencing the battle just now, he had to admit that this evil cultivator was very strong, especially his violent sand 1,000 bursting fist. The power was really not to be underestimated. This could be seen from the fact that Lin Yi could not completely penetrate the opponent after using the 30 moves of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm just now. The opponent's realm was only at the peak of the Gold Core realm, but the power displayed was at the middle stage of the nascent Soul realm. The exaggerated and heaven-defying degree was even comparable to the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm that Lin Yi relied on the most. More importantly, Wu Baoyang's violent sand 1,000 explosive fist was not only powerful, but it was also very practical. Unlike other killing moves that required corresponding timing and conditions, as long as the mad sand 1,000 bursting fist was used, the opponent would basically be at their wits' end. Whether it was used for 1 versus 1 or 1 versus many, it was a rare and excellent choice. In short, this was a rare killing move, so Lin Yi decided to take it for himself. After suffering from the opponent's killing move, he actually wanted to learn it on the spot. This kind of thing was completely ridiculous in the eyes of others. There was no maneuverability at all. Putting aside the fact that he did not have the attributes and conditions to cultivate the opponent's killing move, even if the conditions were suitable, it was easier said than done to cultivate it. People who painstakingly cultivated for decades might only have a small success, but you want to cultivate it in less than the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Is this possible? How is this brain damaged? It's like putting a brain in the water. However, it was unrealistic to use it on others, but if it was used on the 5 elements and 7 attributes. Moreover, it was used on Lin Yi, who also had the real spiritual root, it was very different. With such a strong and majestic foundation, no matter what the opponent's move was, Lin Yi could use the martial skills that he already knew, coupled with the opponent's unique activation method, to deduce and combine it bit by bit. After gradually mastering and familiarizing himself with it, he could really take it for himself. He had done this kind of thing many times in the past. The Mad Fire 8 trigrams palm was a ready-made example. If he wanted to quickly improve his strength, he had to walk on 2 legs. Improving his realm was one thing, but on the other hand, his martial skills had to be constantly evolved. Both were indispensable, and Lin Yi clearly understood this. Of course, the deduction and combination of any martial skill was a very complicated and difficult thing. The more exquisite and powerful the martial skill, the more difficult it was to deduce. Even though Lin Yi was experienced, facing Wu Baoliang's mad sand thousand bursting fist, he still had a lot of things to do. Over and over again, it was like playing a movie in Lin Yi's mind. He kept replaying the situation on the arena just now. He disassembled the opponent's mad sand thousand bursting fist bit by bit, combined it with his own understanding and realizations, and then put it back together bit by bit. If the conditions allowed it, the best way was to deduce it in his mind for a period of time, and then try it out on the spot. Only then could he really know whether his deduction was successful or not, and where the problem was. However, with so many people watching, Lin Yi obviously did not have the conditions to do so. He could only silently rehearse in his mind, and use his rich experience to judge whether the deduction was successful or not. This was a really difficult technical task, and ordinary people could not do it. In the end, after the mad sand thousand bursting fist was disassembled and practiced countless times, it was finally successfully reassembled in Lin Yi's mind. However, it had a different appearance. Once it was really used, it was probably very different from the original version of Wu Baoliang's mad sand thousand bursting fist. This could not be helped. Until now, Lin Yi could not completely confirm whether the black gas on Wu Baoliang's body was a characteristic of an evil cultivator, or an extremely rare mutated spiritual root. Therefore, even with his 5 elements and 7 attributes, there was no way to completely imitate the black gas. The time it took to burn a stick of incense wasn't long, and when the last bit of incense ash fell, the spectators immediately regained their spirit. Although 99% of them thought that Lin Yi was dead for sure, watching a battle of life and death like this still gave them an inexplicable sense of excitement, making them unable to watch it anymore. Wu Baoliang squinted at Lin Yi below the arena. He was about to mock him, but before he could speak, Lin Yi had already stood up and walked into the arena. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.